roll call, please. Chairman Navarado? Yes. Vice Chair Venero?
Here.
Mr. Vanda?
Here.
Mr. Giordano?
Here.
Mr. Graziano? Mr. Williams?
Here.
Ms. Meadowford? Here. Mr. Zangari?
Here.
Mr. Di Lorenzo?
Here.
Mr. Hertz?
Here.
Mr. Marinello?
Here.
Mayor Bell?
Here.
Sunshine notice. Pursuant to the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, known as the Sunshine Law, notice of this meeting was published in December 1st, 2022, edition of the Belleville Times, and the November 26, 2022 edition of the Star Ledger. Copy of the annual meeting notice has been posted on the Belleville Town Hall bulletin board as well as the township website. Some communications, your introduction. Oh, I'm sorry. Pledge allegiance. Going to pass.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Introduction and approval of the 2024 planning calendar for the board. Did everybody receive it? We'll pull that again on that question that we had. Okay. I had a question on July 8th and August 5th, which are Mondays, and we're wondering why.
Do we want to hold off on the approval to the next meeting so we find out, or is that fine with everybody?
Is there a problem waiting next meeting?
We might have to wait. Well, we don't know why we can't do the Thursday that much. It's August and July, it's Mondays for some reason. Change it? Is there any other meeting that night that we can't?
It's very possible she pulled the clerk's office and something that's scheduled, but I don't know. Usually for years, zoning board and planning board usually has the first and second Thursday.
I mean, if there is a conflict, do we want to have a problem with it, or we just do it next month and it's not a big deal? Do it next month. Do it next month.
Next month. Thank you. Chair's comments. I think this evening the only thing that I have to discuss is that since Corinne is out, we need to officially discuss our recording secretary and vote on a substitute. Thank you.
Doing that now, or are we doing that?
Well, it's Chairman's comments.
Okay. It's up to you, whenever you want to do it. Now?
Now.
As you can see, Gina is here. Gina has the most experience in town since she deals with the zoning board as well.
Can we use the mic, maybe?
Since, as you can see, Gina is here. Gina works for the zoning board as well. She's the secretary for them. She's been doing that for a long time. She has the most experience in town. We weren't given any other options, so I think she's the best option for us. I think Corinne's only going to be absent for January and February, by the way, after this. So it's 2 meetings.
She wanted to be here. But in the meantime, somebody has to take up her duties. Any other discussion on this? You want to make some sort of motion to make it official?
I make a motion for Gina to be the stand-in for the next couple of meetings when I guess Corinne can't be here.
Second.
And thank you, Gina, for doing that.
You're welcome, thank you. And who seconded that? I'm sorry. Rich. You. Roll call. Navarado? Yes. Venero?
Yes.
Vanda?
Yes.
Giordano?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Belford?
Yes.
Zangari?
Yes.
Thank you. Approval of minutes from Thursday, October 12th, 2023.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Roll call. First approval was? Second, sorry.
Davenport.
Audience.
Yes.
Melford.
Abstain.
Gary.
Yes.
I don't believe there's any resolutions to be memorialized this evening. All right, new business. PB 2314, which is 3135 Columbus Avenue, has been adjourned. Yes, they would like to be voted on
Yeah, did we do the bill list?
December 15th, yes.
We did, voted. The bill list we usually vote on, don't we?
Yeah, we did.
No.
Yeah, I would normally.
No?
Yeah, but I thought, when I abstained,
In the
what
minutes.
did I abstain on? I abstained on the minutes.
Right. Now you got the
On
bill
minutes,
list.
the bill list he's talking about.
And we skipped the bill list, right?
Right.
Okay, I thought so.
Seem to be skipping everything. I apologize. All right, we'll go back to the bill list, October 12th, 2023.
Motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Navarado.
Yes.
Vice Chair Venero.
Yes.
Vanda.
Yes.
Giordano.
Yes.
Mayor Melham.
Yes.
Audience.
Yes.
Melford.
Abstain.
This one here?
Gary.
Let's go back.
Abstain.
And did you announce the date yet? All right, let's go back there. The date that they want to do it to?
December.
So, you want me to? Just going back to 10B on the agenda, PB 2314, 3135 Columbus Avenue. The chairwoman announced that they're asking for an adjournment, so they're asking to be adjourned to the December 14th planning board meeting. If anyone is here for 10B, PB 2314, 3135 Columbus Avenue, that matter will be moved to the December 14th planning board meeting with no further notice necessary. Which brings us to 10A.
Thank you. PB 2307 is 81 Stevens Street. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman. Jason Sudell, attorney for the applicant. I'm going to stand over here, over there, what do you prefer?
I think the mic.
Definitely needs a mic.
The mic is over there. Somebody,
Wherever you prefer. Can you pick me up just without the mic?
the audience can hear.
Maybe you can lend them yours, Lawrence?
Okay, that's fine.
Swing it around.
Is that good? Everybody hear me? Okay. So good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Jason Sudell. From the law firm of Prime and Sudell, attorney for the applicant. This is an application for preliminary and final major site plan approval for the property located at 81 Stevens. It's block 9403, lot 1. Let me just go over some of the existing characteristics of the property, and then we can go into the proposal. Just for the record, the application is for a lot that is in a redevelopment area. This was a redevelopment plan that governs it. The front part of the parcel, or about 80% of the lot, is for a quick check with gas and convenience store. If you go there today, everyone I'm sure is aware, that is being built currently on the property, and this board granted site plan and subdivision approval for that quick check with gas. Now that that's been constructed and there's been a subdivision of the property, the remainder portion of the lot that faces Academy Street or fronts along Academy Street is in the redevelopment plan and is proposed as multifamily pursuant to the redevelopment plan. That's what we're proposing on this remainder lot that was envisioned by the redevelopment plan and by the municipality. So we're proposing 40 residential units to be located on site, 32 one-bedrooms, 8 two-bedrooms, and that's consistent with the redevelopment plan. 52 parking spaces, which is also compliant with the redevelopment plan. And we've actually been working at this for quite some time. We, I think, initiated discussions with the municipality as normal in the redevelopment context almost a year ago to talk to them about the plan. So we've been working with the redevelopment subcommittee, we've been working with the township planner to get this plan refined. And I think we've gone through several iterations to get to where we are today. We do need several C variances associated with the application that we'll explain. I will say that part of the back and forth with the municipal professionals on the project before we got here related to making the area along Academy Street as much as a residential feel as possible pursuant to the redevelopment plan. So you'll see that when our architect is testifying. In addition to ensuring compliance with parking, which was a very strong and important aspect of the project for the redevelopment committee as well. So we're here now for a project that consists of 40 units, 52 parking spaces with variances, a C variance for height, and we'll talk about that as the application proceeds. I have 3 witnesses that I plan on calling. I have our civil engineer, Applicant from Stonefield Engineering and Design. I have our architect, Chris Pereira, and I have our traffic engineer and professional planner and 1 witness, Matt Seckler from Stonefield Engineering and Design. I will just say one thing just to preview for the board. Although there is a height variance here, 55 feet is permitted, 57.81 feet is proposed, so that 2.81 foot difference. However, along Academy Street, the building is fully compliant where it faces residential, and that top story where the variance occurs is stepped back significantly from the street. And we'll go through that during the course of the testimony. We've also reviewed your professional's letter, and for the most part, I think we can comply with the technical comments set forth therein. So, Madam Chair, if it's, with your permission, I'd be happy to call my first witness. Okay. All right. So the first witness I'd like to call is our civil engineer, Applicant with Stonefield Engineering and Design. I'll let her use the mic while she's testifying, and then I'll step next. Swear her in?
Yeah, just this. Do you want to swear in? I can do it or you can do it. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you shall give on this application shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please give us your name. Please spell it if you can, and then give us your business address.
Sure. First name Afton, A-F-T-O-N. Last name Savitz, S-A-V-I-T-Z. 92 Park Avenue, Rutherford, New Jersey, 07070.
Can everyone hit the mics to them?
I can qualify the witness if that's helpful for everybody. Okay. So Afton, if you can give the board the benefit of your educational background, license is held, experience testifying as a civil engineer in the state of New Jersey.
Sure. I earned a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Bucknell University. I've been practicing in the land development field as a civil engineer for over 10 years. I'm licensed in the state of New Jersey, and my license is in good standing.
Does the board accept Ms. Savitz as an expert in the field of civil? Okay. All right, so Afton, why don't we first start by orienting the board and the public to the existing conditions on the property before we get to the proposal. Why don't we just shift this a little bit? Is that a little bit better so everybody can see?
Sure. So this is a new exhibit. We'll go ahead and mark it A1.
A1, tell me what it is.
It's titled Aerial Exhibit prepared by our office, and it's dated November 3rd, 2023.
Okay.
Great, so on the cover sheet of the previously submitted site plan set, you will also see an aerial. This one flips it upside down for reference for orientation of the board with south facing up and Academy on the bottom of the page. What you see directly above this property is that quick check, a photo taken from earlier this year showing it under construction, with this property fronting on Academy, also frontage on Cortlandt and Stevens. The proposed development, reiterating from council's opening, is proposed on block 9403, lot 2, within the school number 1 redevelopment area, specifically the the residential district. Under existing conditions across Academy, up and down Academy is a residential corridor. The proposed development is looking to complement that. As you go to the east and west direction, or on the left and the right side of this exhibit, you'll see more commercial uses in nature, business districts, complementing that quick check and everything else to the top of the page at the south. Again, for orientation purposes, Passaic River is to the east, that is to the left on this sheet.
Proposed?
Yes, so I will transition to mark a second exhibit. We'll mark it A2. It's titled Site Plan Rendering Exhibit.
So Afton, this is just the site plan that was submitted to the board that's colorized and has the landscaping superimposed, correct?
That's correct.
Prepared by Stonefield, correct?
Correct, prepared by Stonefield. I do have, if helpful for the board, I do have 11 by 17s. Otherwise, if this is legible, we'll go with that.
Once you offer to pass it out,
See,
they're not going to say no. So Afton, why don't you describe the proposed conditions as it relates to the site?
Sure. Proposed development is a multifamily development. It's 5 stories, as you heard from council, 5 stories in height with 2 stories of parking. We are seeking relief for the parking location as it is not within that 4 feet of grade or buried. There are 2 stories of parking as part of the development. Overall 40 units with the bedroom distribution previously mentioned. The proposed site is 16,482 square feet, or 0.38 acres in size. And overall is a permitted use. So residential in this redevelopment plan is conditioned on the entrance being on Academy, not to mention any vehicular entrances not being on Academy, which we are complying with. In addition, the density is compliant with 40 total units, the 80-20 distribution between 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. From an impervious coverage standpoint, we are reducing impervious coverage by approximately 1,700 square feet with a compliant percentage. We're seeking relief related to setbacks on this application. Academy Street is the front yard for the application. Again, you're seeing it towards the bottom of the screen. And where 15 feet is required, we do have a pinch point of 1.7. And you'll notice it's approximately midway along this frontage, and what that is the lobby space, is the amenities supporting the building that requires entrance. Beyond that, as you had left on the page, the building steps back, complying with that 15-foot setback. Similarly, the setbacked area are where you have those stoops for the residential entrances, again, a requirement encouraged as part of the redevelopment plan. In addition, the side yards are Stevens and Cortlandt, where 12.5 feet are required, 5 feet are being proposed. Again, you have those business or commercial uses across those roadways, and this distance doesn't prohibit anything from a pedestrian standpoint. The rear yard is to the top of the page. That is that quick check site that's under construction today. Similarly, where 12.5 feet is required, 5 feet is being proposed, and this does provide adequate egress, circulation around the building for maintenance purposes. The proposed building, as mentioned before, is 5 stories tall. Again, that originates from the parking where one story is buried, but the other is not. In addition, as mentioned, 55 feet is the permitted building height, where this application is seeking 57.81. Now that, as defined in the ordinance, the building height is taken from the average grade along the front of the building. And this application calculated that based on all 3 frontages. I note that Academy is the front yard, where Stevens and Cortlandt have those side yard setbacks. If you were to take all of those in cumulative, it would become a less conservative calculation, and that building height would come down. So again, we're seeking a building height of 57.81. which takes the average grade as it relates to all three frontages. Stevens Street happens to be the lowest in terms of the street grade. And if you were to add those, or if you were to focus solely on Academy Street, that building height lowers to 57.58. From an access standpoint, we are proposing 2 full movement driveways off of Cortlandt Street. Separately, trash collection will be on Stevens. The traffic engineer will go into a little more detail related to the circulation patterns, but traffic will be handled by a private hauler, noting the requirement in the redevelopment plan that it be maintained by them, pulled out to the curb at the time of pickup, as opposed to staying out on the curb for elongated periods of time. From a parking standpoint, there are 54 parking spaces provided. Worth noting, 2 of those are tandem, so that comes out of the equation when counting the required versus what's being provided. So 52 are being provided. When accounting for EV reductions, there are 8 EV spaces being provided to satisfy the 15% requirement. Again, bringing that requirement down to 47.
But just to be clear, we're not taking credit for that. We're not getting credit for that. We are required 52 spaces, and there are an actual 52 spaces located in the building, correct?
Correct. There are 52 spaces. Again, taking the 2 spaces in tandem out of that equation.
Right, so that's actually an additional 2, but we're not counting.
Exactly. From a street standpoint, there were comments in the planner letter related to street trees. It's worth noting where the building sets back along the front of Academy or along that eastern side of Academy, there is the parking below there. That's why we're not indicating any street trees in that area. The applicant is happy to work with the board professionals to site street trees in the right-of-way along the curb line. Again, noting there are some overhead wires, but again, applicant is prepared to comply with that. Again, just noting we do not recommend planting it above structure on the property along Academy.
So just to be clear on that, we do have plantings and shrubs and other things along the Academy Street frontage, but based on the planner's letter, we will work with the board professionals to plant additional street trees along Academy.
Yes.
Okay.
In addition, there is a 6-foot high board and board fence that surrounds the rear yard. Again, that is to the top of the page where it's bordering the quick check to be enclosed. From a lighting standpoint, so all the proposed lighting will be LED. It will be downward facing. I know there was a comment in regards to one of the renderings that showed the wall mounts in both directions. All of the proposed lighting will be downward facing. In addition to that, decorative fixtures, we do note that there were some items on the site plan that reference flood lighting. The intent is that the wall mounts, in conjunction with any other decorative lighting, will be adequate. There was a comment again regarding the garage lighting. No lighting was submitted in terms of what's proposed in the garage. It will be LED recessed fixtures. It won't be visible from pedestrians passing by or neighbors. Again, worth reiterating that the garage is fully enclosed, so there will be a garage door, not to mention walls surrounding it, so any light fixtures that are recessed in the ceiling will not be visible or impact the right-of-way. From a stormwater standpoint, the project is not classified as a major development, so we are actually decreasing the impervious cover, again, by approximately 1,700 square feet. Prior to the construction site that exists right now, this was the parking lot area of the prior school. So when stormwater was falling on the site previously, it had any oils from the vehicles. This application is proposing predominantly a roof area or grass area. So the water naturally is being improved, not to mention it's being slowed down. So we're complying with the ordinance in improving the coverage on the site, not to mention how much water is leaving the property. The applicant or the proposed development is also replicating drainage patterns. So under existing conditions, through the topography, just naturally water is flowing towards Academy, and there are 2 catch basins, 1 at each intersection. The proposed development through roof leaders and storm drains will do the exact same thing.
So Applicant, from a stormwater perspective, you view this not as a positive not only to the property, but also for the surrounding area?
Definitely. In addition, utilities, I don't anticipate there were any utilities servicing the parking lot, but all utilities will be pulled to this building. Worth noting that the transformer will be internal, that is noted on the floor plan of the architecturals, not to mention any other utilities will be fed underground. This does conclude my direct testimony. I'm happy to answer any questions or if there's anything else.
Just after maybe everybody's curious about sidewalk and curb along the frontages, can you just speak to that?
Sure. So under existing conditions or based on the documents that were submitted to date, the improvements in the right-of-way were limited to replacing any concrete in kind. As part of the application, those will be replaced or brought up to the necessary streetscape improvements.
Okay. Just in case anyone missed it, all access to the property by residents of the property will be on Cortlandt, correct?
Correct. Stevens is used for trash pickup.
All right, and that was going to be my next question. Trash pickup will be by private hauler, building management will take it out, so it's not sitting out for any extended period of time.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're happy to answer any questions from the board. Thank you.
Does any member have any questions? Mr. Venero?
I just have a question. I've worked on the redevelopment plan for this site, and we're at over 100 units per acre. We came up with a plan, and now you're looking for variance to make it even bigger than we previously wanted, especially with regards to the setbacks. 12.5 feet is required, and we're only going to do 5. I mean, the 2 feet of the building height, for me, is not a big deal, but couldn't we have done this project and comply with the redevelopment plan?
So here's my response to that. I want to answer it fully because it is a variance and we have to justify why we need it. I think the architect's testimony in terms of the layout, the internal layout of the parking will explain why the building footprint was done the way it is. If you don't agree, obviously if you have questions after that, we're happy to address them. But I think it's going to come down to the layout of the parking and ensuring compliance with the parking as to why the dimensions of the building are the way they are. And I'll have the architect explain that fully.
Any other comments, Mr. Vanda?
Yeah, I'm a little confused about the heights that you were discussing. It sounded almost like Academy Street was higher than the sides, but it looks like on the drawings, everything else, that Academy Street's only 4 stories, where the others are 5.
So I think what Afton was talking about with the grades and not the height of the building. So, yeah, so Afton, just clarify that for the record.
Because the max height of the building, based on our ordinance, I guess, is 55 feet.
That's correct.
What is Academy Street? My biggest concern throughout this whole thing is going to be Academy Street. It's the only part of this property that we actually have residential houses on.
Fair enough. So Afton, if you know the dimension, I know the architect was going to state it as well, but what's the height of the building along the frontage on Academy Street?
So the height of the building, if you are focusing solely on Academy, would be, and again, this is just from the average grade calculation, it would be 57.58. But that is, it's worth noting that is looking, yeah, he can better explain that front area of the building because it does step back and that it is higher towards the rear. What I'm referring to is per ordinance the highest point of the building.
You're
So
going average grade.
vantage, exactly, the
Just
vantage.
the front
So-
grade. So if you're standing on Academy Street, and I'm looking at the house across the street that's probably 40 feet tall,
Yeah.
I want to know what the height of that building is.
So we'll have, when the architect presents an elevation that shows the step back, and you'll see, so you'll basically see the height on Academy, and then the height of the step back, and I think that'll clarify the question. But you're right, it's 4 stories along Academy, then there's the step back, and it becomes 5 stories as it heads south towards the cliff edge.
The other piece of that I had, in terms of the landscaping, streetscaping, I mean, on the rendering, you guys obviously have a unique looking sidewalk. I don't see trees. Marianne, I know we required the quick check. You did the quick check, right?
Yes.
I know we required the quick check to have a certain type of streetscape. Do we want to carry that around to the whole thing, or
Yes.
including the trees?
Yes, I think it should be.
We
That
were-
would be the entire block.
We were fine with that.
Okay.
One second. Marianne Ward, scenographer. She's our planner.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Because we're kind of jumping.
I'm sorry, ma'am, what's your last name?
Bucci, B-U-C-C-I-Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R.
Mary Ann Warner?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to clarify for the board, Ms. Carter's comments regarding adding additional street trees along the frontage is perfectly acceptable, and we're happy to work with her to her satisfaction on it.
And the sidewalks stayed as well?
Yes, sorry, I meant the whole comment, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
Mayor?
So you mentioned stormwater. You may have said it, I may have missed it. Is this considered a minor or a major?
It's considered a minor development, so naturally, based on the size of the lot, we're not disturbing an acre, nor are we increasing impervious beyond .25, and there really isn't a motor vehicle component of this, but that would be another trigger.
So with the minors, is it like the majors where you have to hold a certain amount of stormwater on premises?
So the minor development per ordinance requires that you are replicating and improving the existing drainage conditions. So if you think about a parking lot, how quickly and how much water would be leaving the property, you're required to mimic it or improve upon it. So based on this application and the additional grass cover or the landscaping cover, that's slowing the water down naturally, so we are improving from a runoff standpoint.
I got a question. I got to disagree with you. You say that right now it's 100% impervious? I didn't see that parking lot paved, and if it was all broken up and the water drained through it. So I can't see how doing nothing is going to improve the drainage. That lot probably hasn't been paved in 50 years, so if there was macadam, it was all broke and the water percolated back into the soil. It didn't run off the property. Now you're going to have 90-something% coverage. The water's going to come out of the gutters into the sewer. We have a flooding problem in the valley, and we're trying to alleviate that and make it better. And when people come here and say, oh, it was 100% impervious, it wasn't. I have to disagree with you. And I think this plan should have some, Tom, is there any plans to retain any of this water underground?
No, but Premier did do work, they did do some of that on their other building on Washington Avenue, so I could work with them to
Yeah, I think
provide
we
some.
definitely need to retain some of the water. Like I said, we want to improve the area. And telling me that was 100% impervious, like 100% disagree with you, because it wasn't. And we need to retain some of the water to lessen the water flow into our sewer systems when we have these historic events.
So I think there's two issues. I think from a DEP perspective, the way that we look at this, it was, as Ms. Abbott said, 100% lot coverage. But your point is well taken, that the board can impose reasonable conditions working with us on a site plan. And I think the applicant, I think it's a fair point, the applicant can implement some infrastructure working with the township engineer to facilitate that issue. I don't think that's, I understand that comment.
Any other questions?
I just want, so
Yes.
the issues in my letter was, which is dated June 3rd, will you be able to comply with those?
Yes, I believe you had a question regarding utility connection, should...
Yeah, there was some other things like composite fences that were board on board.
Yes, the fence in the front yard, again, I think the architect will get into this in a little more detail. That has since been added since the time of that letter. Additionally, we do have a board-on-board fence. It is solid in nature. I do have the letter. I'm happy to go through it in more detail, but we'll comply with the
Yeah, I think
requirements.
to the extent any of the comments are still applicable to the revisions we made, we're happy to comply.
And then I'll be able to supply you with because the streetscaping's changed. It's been a moving object for a while, but we have a final version of it.
That's fine.
That's
fine.
Great.
Any other questions? All right, I'll open it up to the public, if anybody has any questions. Come up and state your name and address for the record.
Gary
That's
Hinton,
Gary
307 Fairway Avenue, Belleville.
So you gave us very last.
Gary Hinton, Hinton, 307 Fairway Avenue, Belleville. Can you tell me the size of the parking spaces?
I was going to have the architect and the traffic engineer go through that, but after, you just briefly, if you know the size, just provide it as an answer.
Sure. Yeah, again, they'll go through it in more detail, but a standard 9x18 parking size.
She said 9 by 18.
9 by 18? And where is the dumpster going to be?
Sure.
Sure. So along this frontage, Stevens frontage, there's a waste and recycling room. How waste is managed internal to the building will be touched on in the architecture testimony. So it'll be collected here. It will be maintained, collected, covered. and then building management will arrange with the private hauler to wheel it out to the curb for
Yeah,
pickup.
there's no outside storage of trash or recycling. It's all inside, and it'll be coordinated to be, once the truck comes, to be pulled out and then pulled back inside.
The apartment, they're all one bedroom?
The ordinance requires, can I answer? Okay. The ordinance requires an 80-20 ratio, 80%, I always feel like I'm messing this up, 80% one bedrooms and 20% two bedrooms, so based on 40 units, it's 32 one bedrooms and 8 two bedrooms, all right?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as the drainage, is there any catch basin in the property?
Yes, so we are, you heard the feedback from the board regarding additional stormwater improvements. As submitted, we are managing stormwater on our property with some yard drains and ultimately connecting to the infrastructure where it exists today.
You're gonna have driveways on Academy?
There are no driveways on Academy. The main access is on Cortlandt, and the only, I won't even call it a driveway, but there'll be a door opening for the garbage to come out on Stevens, and then it'll be closed. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Sheldon?
Say your name and address, please.
Michael Sheldon, 47 Floyd Street. At the start of the testimony tonight, the specific name of the applicant developer wasn't mentioned, but Mr. Harris did mention one of the names a few moments ago. Just for the record, the developer for the site, as was named by the council at the last meeting, is Premier Developers Peter Teflinski.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to be totally clear, he assigned it to one of his affiliate entities, 81 Stevens LLC, but yes, it's Peter Teflinski of Premier Developers.
Thank you. You also mentioned at the beginning of your testimony that this is a redevelopment zone, an RDB zone. Correct me if I'm wrong, but with RDB zones, the council largely determines the zoning or what conditions need to be satisfied. In other words, when a zone is an RDB zone, it doesn't have to subscribe to the other zoning regulations that affect almost every other square inch of Belleville. That's correct. So yeah, I'm leading up to that. So since the council itself determines what is permissible in an RDB zone, my question then I guess is going to be addressed to Mr. DiLorenzo. If this project were...
Wait, is this pertaining to their
Yeah,
testimony?
I'm almost there. Just give me another second.
Okay.
If this project was in any other zone, it would need variances, and it would have to necessarily then go before the zoning board because of height and setbacks and everything else. In any other zone in Belleville, this would require...
If it's not permitted, right?
Yeah, it's not permitted, but
If
the
it was
height, for
permitted,
example...
they'd be okay, so some zones may be okay, some zones may have to...
Well, except for the BG zone, I think this would not be permitted in any other... The height of this would not be permitted in any other zone other than the BG zone.
Some zones may be, some zones yes.
All right. Well, since the council determines the nature of RDB zones, and since Mr. Teflinski...
The question for that.
Yes, well, it's the whole, everyone here.
Well, we're
Yeah,
not
but we're
up
at
to
the
that
point where we're discussing questions of this witness.
All right, well, again, Mr. Teflinski has given tens of
That
thousands of
has
dollars.
nothing to
Yes,
do with
nothing.
this. There's nothing to do with this.
Yes, it
Mr.
is.
Sheldon,
Mr.
let's not
Mellon
go
is
down that
conflicted.
path.
Is conflicted.
This has nothing to do with that. This
You're
is
not going
the,
to acknowledge that Mr.
that is
Mellon...
definitely not a question of this witness.
You
Well,
have,
I will bring it up in final
Question for
testimony.
That's fine, you can bring it up then, and I'll disregard it then too, but this is
That's
a
fine.
witness of, this is what she's waiting for. Do you have any
I
questions
do
for
have
her?
another question. That's
Okay.
fine, you wanted to ignore it, dismiss it, because
Mr.
first thing
Sheldon,
tomorrow,
let's just-
all of this will be heading off to my contacts at the OAE and the
okay,
AG's
let's,
office.
please,
Would you just ask the woman a question, please?
And with Mr. Venero brought up a few moments ago, yes, the density, you have 40 units on 0.38 acres, leading to a density of 105 units per acre. You know, up until 3 years ago, this township would not even allow 55 units per acre, but now...
could you
Mr.
really
Sheldon, and then
clear
finally, my last
what
question
question
that
they
remains
want?
here
Yes.
is the stormwater management program. As Mr. Venero said, there is no way in the world that realistically previously that this lot was 100% impervious. That parking lot was, as Mr. Venero acknowledged, and you all should know, was completely degraded. Water was seeping into that ground everywhere.
And they
If you're
knocked
going
the
to go ahead
school
with this
down.
project,
What is the
if
question?
you're going to go ahead with this project, you need a proper stormwater management plan with retention or detention basins so you don't exacerbate the flooding
I
problem,
think
as
that's
Mr.
what the
Venero.
gentleman said.
We're gonna work on that.
Well, but you need to make it a condition, not just, well, we'll look into
Okay.
it. You need to make a real stormwater management program a condition.
It's in my report, which is a condition of.
I didn't see it, so I'm glad you're very proactive.
Mr. Shelter, honest to God, this is gonna be your 5 minutes for the end of the show, because you're not asking any questions of the witness.
You currently don't have a stormwater management program with retention or detention basins in place, is that correct? There are no retention or detention basins.
Not as previously submitted.
So I would like the board to make sure
We
to change the
got it.
stormwater management program
Yeah,
so that you can hold back a sufficient amount of rain in the event that we have a 10 or 100-year.
That was discussed. That was discussed.
It was discussed, but I would like to see it as a condition. for
I'll
your-
Yes, it will be.
I'll reaffirm it. I think I said it, but I'll reaffirm it. The board brought up that we feel we comply, but the board felt that more stormwater management, that we should do more. And we would work with the township engineer on that issue, and we agreed to do that as a condition.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? This gentleman back there?
Good evening. Cesar Roca, 54 Rutgers Street,
Spell it. Last name, spell it.
ROCA. Can we go to Exhibit 8?
Sure. Was that the aerial you wanted to see? Is that behind you? Sure, go ahead.
Can I point out
Yeah, go ahead.
Cortlandt and Rutgers? Mr. Banda, I'm at 54 Rutgers Street, Cortlandt Banda, and I know in the spirit of what you mentioned that you're only concerned about what was the residentials in Academy, but I am a resident there at the corner of 54 Rutgers Street, and I've been taking a pounding with the traffic situation there. This is not the first time I've been in front of the board, and certainly council, now. All of the traffic that would be going into that building is coming in and out of Cortlandt Street, is that what you're proposing?
That is, we'll go back to the.
Yeah,
Okay. So after, if you could just reiterate, and we'll have a traffic engineer also, that if you have further questions, but just to answer, where are the two access points?
Correct, there are two driveways on Cortlandt Street on the right-hand side of this page.
Right. So again, all traffic is flowing through Cortlandt Street. As it stands now, I don't know if, you're going to have a traffic engineer that apparently is going to be surveying that,
Yes.
that land, but it is, cannot, I mean, it takes me 10 to 15 minutes every day to get in and out of my driveway. I don't understand how you're going to add another 40, vehicles coming in and out of that area.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had to, the last year and a half, I've had to plan my entire schedule to get in and out of my own property. I work in New York City, travel an hour to get in and out of work, then to come home, sit in traffic 15 minutes, and travel 2 blocks.
We're going to have you come back with
Too long.
traffic engineer speak.
Yeah, I have videos, a year worth of videos, just showing the amount of traffic that
You'll have your
has
chance.
occurred there. So I just wanted to get that on record,
Yes.
so that we can figure this out.
No problem. Two things.
I'm not opposed to the redevelopment. I've been resident here 40 years. Father myself, we have 3 businesses here in town. I welcome all the changes happening, trust me. But some of this stuff is just out of control.
We'll go through our traffic analysis in detail, so hopefully you're comfortable with it. But also the redevelopment plan, just so you're aware, requires that the access be either on Stevens or on Cortlandt. We can't have access on Academy for the plan, just so you're aware.
Sir. Yeah.
Sir, I know our town engineer is going to speak when the traffic and their traffic expert speaks, but we are rerouting a lot of the traffic in that area. So when you're on Main Street heading south, and you can't make a left-hand turn over the bridge, and you have to go up through, that's all being changed.
You
That's all
mentioned
being
that
allowed.
to me a couple of months ago, that
Yeah.
came frustrations, I couldn't
Yeah.
get into
No,
my
it's all-
driveway.
the-
You mentioned that, but I did speak to the county, and their words to me, as a matter of fact, I got a letter, was, this is about a year and a half away before it even gets approved.
Our engineer will speak to
If
it.
it's changed,
No,
then let us know.
it is being worked on, and the county's also working on,
The developers are, for Quick Check, ready to put money up to do it, because they're funding a big portion of that, so it is gonna happen.
but the county is also, I met preliminarily with their engineer, they're gonna improve the intersection, your intersection, Rutgers and Cortlandt.
Right, and again, something has to happen here. I have, police reports will show, I mean, there's been accidents, cars inside my property, just because people are fighting to try to get through.
But that's what's gonna change.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just interrupt for 1 second? I know everybody comes to these things passionate with questions, and it is important, but it's also important that we try and follow the way in which these meetings go. So if I can ask, when you get called on now with question for the witness, please try and keep it to the question for the witness. You will have an opportunity at the end of the meeting to voice whatever your concerns are about the project. That is the mechanism in which these go. I do understand it, especially for those of you who don't come to these meetings that often, that you're not used to it, and you get up there and you feel like this is my chance to say something and you don't want to miss out on it, and I get that. But if we could, this will work to everyone's advantage if we can get questions of the witness at the time that it's questions for a witness. Yes?
If I can, just one comment. There was no agenda. Came in looking for agenda, that would have helped kind of giving us a...
I got it. I totally understand, and I don't, you know, especially for those of you who don't have to come here that often with questions like this, I totally understand it, and I'm listening to you, how passionately you're speaking about the traffic issues in your neighborhood. I totally get why you would want to get that out while you had the chance.
It just takes any day of the week except Sunday, and even sometimes on Sunday.
Yeah.
for
But you
any
will have
of
an
you to travel down
opportunity,
here.
you and everyone else who wants to talk about what they think about the application, and you should ask questions of the witnesses if you have real concerns. You did ask a question that's very relevant to your situation, so I appreciate why you want to do that, but let's try and keep the stuff to the questions, and we'll get to everybody's opportunity to say what they want to say.
Gentleman, right here.
Orlando Trinidad, 58 Academy Street, Belleville. Trinidad, T-R-I-N-I-D-A-D. So, good evening, everybody. If you just allow me just 1 or 2 minutes, and I'll get to my question. I'd like to start off by saying I'm a Marine Corps veteran, honorable discharge. I'm not a threat to this project. I'm for the betterment of Belleville. Been here for 10 years. Love this town, mayor. Love what you do with your engagement. Thank you. We never received a letter about the Quick Check or the gas station. That's over. Just wanted to mention that. About this meeting, I wasn't made aware of it. I went on the website, I didn't see anything. I overheard township workers speaking at the Walgreens last night, and that's how I found out about this meeting. Okay. This
Not to
parking
interrupt you,
situation,
but can we, do we have notice?
58 Academy Street, we did not receive a letter.
The agenda's on the township website.
Okay, moving forward, there's no parking on Rutgers. I know where I'm wrong. There's no parking on Rutgers. There's limited parking on Cortlandt on one side. On Stevens, it's commercial, very limited parking. I've never actually seen anybody park there. On Academy Street where I live, you can maybe fit 6 or 7 cars. We're talking about 40 units, husband and wife, everybody has 2 cars in the state. So what are we gonna do with these other 40 or 50 cars? I'm gonna come home, I'm not gonna be able to park. Where are these people gonna park? They can't park on Cortlandt, they can't park on Stevens, they can't park on Rutgers. So where are they gonna park on Academy Street? Am I gonna have to park 4 blocks away like I'm from
Sir,
12 hours of work?
we're going to have a traffic engineer in a few minutes.
I want an answer.
No, you will get an answer.
And I have to deal with these accidents on Academy and Cortlandt. Nobody does anything about it. There's accidents every day. I've had people on my front lawn waiting for the police and the ambulance and the fire department. So I get emotional about it. I have family. We have children. So where are we gonna park? What's gonna be done about this truck? It's only gonna make it
So the
worse.
gentleman behind you, I'm sorry, the gentleman behind you is 2 witnesses from the Sabbats. His specific role is to analyze parking and traffic. He also submitted a report as well. I will have him go through the entire traffic analysis, parking analysis, explain why the design was the way that it is, the way we're proposing it. If he doesn't satisfy your concerns based on his testimony, you can ask him any question you want about parking and traffic. He'd be happy to answer.
All right, I just want to know what's going to be done with the parking and the traffic.
So he's
About 3
he's
PM
listed, your
to
pre-meeting.
about 7 PM, I can't even have dinner without hearing that those warning
Everybody is going to have an opportunity to make a statement after. Right now, we're in the process of just cross-examining the witnesses and answering questions.
All
We'll have
right, I just want to make sure as
opportunity.
residents and taxpayers that our voice is heard. I know there's only 2 of us here, but oh, I'm sorry.
Whether
few
it's
more.
1 or 2, we want to
But
listen.
it's hell living over here now in
Yes.
the valley in this area. It's hell with the traffic. Thank you for being here,
I
folks.
wanted to say for that guy.
Mr. Franklin.
Vincent Frantantoni, Frantantoni, 129 Mount Prospect Avenue, Belleville. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Marinello, come over here, for using the microphones. Finally, you learned, we can hear you. Thank you very much.
Took me a year, but I finally got it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. To the young lady, I want to put the pervious area, we'll go with the side yard first. The side yard, when 12 feet required, did I hear you correct, you only provide 5?
That's correct.
And the rear yard, likewise, 12 is required, you only provide 5 there too?
That's correct.
Is there any reason we can't comply with that part of the code?
Well, I've spoken to the exteriors of the building, my comfortability about everything outside of the building. You'll hear from the architect next that speaks to how the building was designed on the internal side. I can help answer that question as well.
I think what we tried to get across through the Savitz testimony was that even though the building is designed with those deviations as you indicated, from a civil engineering perspective, you saw no negative impacts as a result of that design, correct?
Yes.
Right, just
Correct.
right. And from a lighting and stormwater, you didn't see any issues as it relates to that.
Correct.
However, to fully answer your question as to why it was, and I believe one of the board members had a question about that as well, the architect will explain it and hopefully give you a proper answer.
All right, I've been doing this for a while, but was the answer your answer or hers? I think she should answer, and you shouldn't put words in her mouth, please.
I didn't put any words in that.
Well, you did. I asked the question, and you answered her. You gave me the answer and said, isn't that correct? And well, she said, right. That's not the way you do it. So you should give us the respect of letting the witness answer our respective questions. Okay? Thank you. So once again, I'll ask you, why couldn't it be designed to comply with, I mean, this is overdevelopment to the nth degree. So why couldn't we comply with a 12-foot rear yard and a 12-foot?
Mr. Frantantoni, I think
I'm asking the witness.
she said, made the comment herself, saying the architect is going to be coming next and can answer those questions.
All right, we'll ask her. Then I go another step further. The pervious area, where is the green area? Can you point it out to me on that?
Sure. You can see along Academy Street, the unit entrances are set back. You can tell that there's grass in between every stoop. And then
How far are they set back?
they're set back 15 feet, and that's for over 100 linear feet along Academy.
And how about the rear?
Along the rear, we have foundation plantings as you work your way clockwise along Stevens Street. There's an access to back of house, and then there will be plantings or grass along the top.
But that green area is only 5 feet, the rear yard?
Correct.
All right, so if I'm living there and after dinner, I want to go sit and enjoy the fresh air, that's all I have, is 5 feet, to put out my lawn chair and relax.
From the at-grade exterior space, that's correct. There are amenities that are provided as part of the building that the architect will go into more detail on.
Where are those amenities?
Unfortunately, you can't see them on the plan I'm sharing here, but the next witness will go through their submitted drawings, the floor plans, inclusive of the roof, to lay that out.
Okay, and with the drainage, where the drain pipes and all, from the roof drains and all, where is that going to flow to?
Sure, so under existing conditions, the topography naturally flows towards Academy, with some of it going towards the intersection with Stevens and some going to Cortlandt, and we'll replicate patterns by having roof drains connect one on either side.
When you say the grade flows towards Academy Street,
Under existing conditions. There's overland flow under existing conditions.
I'm very familiar with that area. My wife worked right across the street. I'm contract, go to the siding place all the time. I don't think you're correct. I don't think it flows towards Academy Street. It flows down towards Main Street and it flows down towards Rutgers Street.
So under existing conditions, and this is speaking wider to that of the quick check as well, again, prior to the construction that's in right now, there is, you can't see the entire lot on this page, but there is a high point mid-lot where Rutgers flow is going in the Rutgers direction, and then the rest is flowing in this southern direction toward Academy.
Were those measurements taken before Quick Check did all the excavations?
Yes.
Because all that hump that you're referring to is gone now. Quick Check is taking a bunch of dirt out of it. And it now, according to what I look, it flows.
Correct. The temporary condition as it exists right now, again, that topography, I can't speak to the exact slopes and what is out there at this current condition, but the prior existing condition for this lot, all of the drainage goes to Academy when it was paved.
And after you took into account the quick check site plan when designing this site plan, correct?
Yes.
And also, well, I'm sorry, I'll save this for the architect.
Is there any other comments? Gentleman back here?
Chris Sabatelli, 1664 Broad Street in Bloomfield. I grew up on Stevens Street, actually. Last name Sabattelli. First name Chris. The civil engineer, where the cars will be pulling in and out of the building, it's only a 5-foot setback. Is there going to be enough room for a driver to see pedestrians walking past, or are we going to have an issue where there can be a danger?
There will be adequate site distance, but the traffic engineer will go into that in more detail.
And on the topic of the impervious, as you know, this third of the site was a parking lot. It feels to me like what was stated and put on record was kind of skewing the idea that the entire block used to be at least 50% green space. Now it's mostly a gas station, and now this building is going to be nearly 100% coverage. So yes, to say that you're reducing the impervious on this lot, yes, it's true. It used to be a parking lot at this end. I agree with your point, Mr. Panero.
Yes.
But on the macro scale of the full block, it's just not reducing. So I just thought that should be done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. One follow-up question.
Kim, we're going to wait.
Well, germane to the engineer's testimony.
Is it a quick question?
Yes. Michael Sheldon, again, 47 Floyd Street. If it's true, and granted, I haven't been carefully monitoring the site, but if what Mr. Frantantoni said, that there's been tremendous excavation, the topography of the site has changed over the last several weeks, don't you think the board is owed a recalculation of these factors to make sure that the numbers that are being presented tonight are consistent with reality? If several feet of grade have been removed, then this throws off everything else. Don't you, I think you owe it to yourselves in this township to ask for the engineer to go back and check all of these grade numbers to make sure that they're consistent with the current reality of the site.
That's a good question.
So that's what I was at.
Rather, it's a good,
Thank you. Once in a while I do ask a meaningful question.
Well, you don't ask them to the right people, but you do ask them.
So I asked Ms.
we won't have that right now.
So I asked Ms. Savage that earlier when this gentleman was asking, but can you just confirm that you coordinated this site plan with the quick check site plan to make sure that all the drainage patterns and grades are going to work together?
Yes, we have all of their site plan documents that we've been designing in conjunction.
But I think you did say that you did your calculations before Quick Check came in and started excavating. So there is a natural worry here that the numbers may be off. What Quick Check has done to the site may no longer be consistent with the engineer's numbers.
Can I ask a question? Has Quick Check done anything to this site?
No,
No, right?
that's my understanding.
So there's no excavating on your site being done by Quick Check?
There's staging on the property, but.
That's temporary.
Yeah, but what I was gonna say is, they have, during construction, the grades don't matter. It's what they have to build towards the plan that was approved that they'll ultimately get to. We are building to the plan, we will build to the plan that this board approves, if it approves it, and they have to be coordinated. And we've done that, correct?
Yes.
So the final product will work, in your opinion.
It will, and it's, just to clarify, when I do say that we've not surveyed the current condition that's out there, there is exposed soil, and that naturally the water will go into faster than when it was paved previously. So from a stormwater standpoint, we are analyzing that parking lot as it previously existed to what's being proposed.
As you all are aware, Quick Check site is 0.2 acres of the 1.6. Their project is only 0.3 acres of that block. So if Quick Check has made major changes to the grade and elevations, it's going to have an impact on the overall behavior of the block. And that's why I think you guys need to be absolutely certain that Quick Check's work has not adversely impacted what these people would like to do on their site.
Michael, Quick Check is a standalone project. They had their own stormwater control, management controls and everything. And if I remember correctly, I thought there was a retaining wall between the properties.
There is a retaining wall.
So Quick Check is a standalone, and they supplied their own stormwater management plans. This is a standalone project, and they're going to do theirs. So I don't think we should have any concern. I'll work with them to supply stormwater management.
Well, since everyone is presumably working together, why can't they combine resources and utilize the same storm management system to...
Because they're two different entities. Then you need easements. It gets to be a legal nightmare.
Well,
okay.
All right. I guess when you share storm management systems, that could get kind of thorny legally.
I think, yeah, because if something happens, who's
Any
pointing
other
fingers?
questions?
That's it for the moment. Thank you. I'll be back. All right.
Any other questions? All right, then we will conclude this portion.
Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next witness I have is our project architect, Chris Pereira with CPA Architecture.
Good evening. Hi, please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you'll give on this application shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Now give us your name and business address for the record.
Sure. Name is Cristiano Pereira. My firm is CPA Architecture. We're located at 6401 Park Avenue in West New York, New Jersey, Suite 201. I'll give you a card so you don't.
So Chris, can you go through your educational background, licenses held, and experience testifying as an architect in the state of New Jersey?
Sure. I have a bachelor's in architecture from our great New Jersey Institute of Technology. I've held my license for over 12 years, 14 years now actually. I'm licensed in 7 other states. All licenses are current. I've testified before this board and any other boards throughout the state.
Acceptance.
Thank you.
All right. So Chris, you designed the elevations and floor plans of this building?
That's correct.
Okay. Why don't we start first with the elevations and then we can walk the board up through the floor plan. So,
Yep.
Mr. Marinello, we're up to A3.
A3.
So Chris, can you just mark this and identify for the record, please?
Sure. So A3 is a three-dimensional photorealistic rendering of the proposed building. And I also have the plans that were submitted to you, and I'll reference to both, if you don't mind. My plans that you have should be dated, last revision number 6, dated 8/22/23.
And the exhibit A3, this is facing Academy Street?
Yes, this exhibit is the building as it faces Academy Street.
Okay. So why don't you walk the board through the elevations?
Sure. So as, let me start, first, good evening, thanks for having us.
I'd like to start with, we start about talking about the rendering because it's usually the easiest way for us to understand the building in terms of mass, in terms of scale, how it stacks, and then we go through the plans. But I'd like to reinforce what Mr. Develop discussed before. This was a very collaborative effort between the developer, between us, the design team, and the committee for the redevelopment plan. And I think what we got from all that interaction, you can see there are 6 revisions on my plans. Those are there are various modifications that we did throughout the process. And I think what we accomplished here was something that's much better than I believe either the redevelopment plan could initially conceive and that we started with. The height issue, let me start with that because I think this is first and foremost in everyone's mind. What you see here is a rendering view from across the street on Academy Street. And this is what you perceive if you're standing across the street. You perceive a building that's 3 stories over that lower level parking, which, as mentioned before, the redevelopment plan would allow us to be 55 feet. The height here, Mr. Bandit, to address your question, the height that you perceive to the parapet wall here on this elevation is 49'6". So you perceive an elevation here of 49'6", where 55 would be allowed. Then the building steps back, and you can see on the side elevation here, at this corner at Stevens, the building steps back 20 feet from Academy, from the face of the building on Academy. Reminding you, the building is already stepped back 15 feet from Academy's property line at that corner. So up here, the building steps back about 20 feet, and the property is irregular. You see, the building, the property has an angle to it. So it steps back anywhere from 20 to 36 feet. And that's why, from this view, from across the street, if you're a pedestrian, you wouldn't perceive it, you wouldn't see the top floor. You can't even see the top floor back that's sitting behind here. So that was a great, approach, and it was a great result of, going back and forth to say, how can we do a building that's even lower than what the redevelopment plan initially conceived? And as a bonus, what we got from it is this beautiful outdoor courtyard space that will allow all these building residents to have a beautiful amenity up there, with fire pits and seating, lounge spaces that they can use the outdoors. I think another thing that the plan was really well conceived was to create this buffer, right, between, you have a quick check now, and you have this residential neighborhood to the north. I think the plan was very wisely set in creating this buffer, creating a buffer that, hides this, lower density neighborhood on the north to this very intensive use, which is, a quick check. And I think the plan, initially conceived the building that was 55 feet because of that. Right? You want that buffer, and you want a residential use. You don't want another commercial use facing residential. So, I think the plan was very well conceived in that. And the fact that we're able to, step the building down and make it even lower than initially conceived, it creates that buffer, right? Like, and I know the record can see my hand moving, but, you're trying to create that, it's higher and you're trying to come down the scale of the building. And I think that's what the result of this is. I think the other very important part, and a lot of back and forth that we had, was the way that this building looks, facing the street, the materials that were used, and that scale and that street front. So, we wanted these balconies, we wanted this to feel like a row house almost development, so that it transitions this intensive use behind us to the residential neighborhood. Setting the building back 15 feet, creating those stoops and creating that walkability on the street was another point of the plan, and I think, what we have here accomplishes that, right? We have, those little stoops, and we have a residential unit down here, and we have different access to the building, and we will be creating this beautiful landscape and allowing this, again, intensive use to transition to the neighborhood.
Chris,
Yes.
sorry, just to be clear, because you talked about it at first, the
Sure.
entire top story is set back the length of the building on Academy, correct?
That's correct, except for the front stair shaft as we need to navigate that vertically, but yes, the entirety of the building is set back. And, just since I have the rendering up here, just to touch on some of the comments that we received, but, just looking at the picture and the materials, So we have a lot of finishes here that are high-grade finishes. There's a lot of brick, a couple of tones of brick, going all the way up. We have a lot of cast stone materials too, defining some of the other elements. We have these beautiful balconies on the units facing the street because we want that, we want that interaction of the residents here with the street. And then we have some hard stucco areas just to break up all of that masonry. And a lot of glazing, the windows as you see here, we're integrating the mechanical units to the windows themselves so that you don't see them, they're flush. So a really high-end looking building with, really high-grade finishes throughout the entire building, as a matter of fact, not just the front here facing Academy. So if you don't mind, I think we should shift to the drawings. I can always come back to the rendering if you have any questions. I'll refer to this as our original drawings, so I don't know if you don't need to mark this as an exhibit, but these are the drawings you have. They're just printed in color. I believe you got black and white. Yes.
So I'm going to just make A4
Sure.
Colorized versions of your previous submitted.
Previous submitted, right. So as mentioned by Mr. Fidel, just to break down the building, we have 40 residential units, 32 of which are one-bedroom units, and 8 units are two-bedroom units. We have 54 parking spaces, although we only accounting for 52 because 2 of those are set in a tandem configuration. So even though we have them there, we're not counting them. We're showing them in the drawings, and they will be properly used because they can, but we're not accounting for them. So, and our traffic engineer can further discuss if you have any questions on that. The building height, as I mentioned, we are requesting a variance for the building height. The building height is at 57.81 feet when measured from that average grade, and as mentioned on prior testimony. So, and we're allowed to have a 55-foot building height. As I mentioned, the building, 50% of that top story is only 49 foot 6 inches. The balance of that story on the back of the building facing the quick check, that's where we have that height elevation of 57.81. So just to clarify that. And I'll show you on the floor plans what that switches. I'm going to navigate through my plans. T101 has a few satellite images. I know we have a planner, so I don't want to spend any time here. And I know you all are familiar with the site, so we don't need to spend much time on this exhibit. Getting to my A100 sheet. Getting to my A100 sheet. And I think that speaks to the layout of this building. The redevelopment plan, which does allow for 40 units, the redevelopment plan required a certain number of parking spaces, which we comply with. Even though we don't take any of the exceptions that would be allowed for the EV, so we are providing a number of parking spaces that are required in the redevelopment plan. And in order to do that, we needed to get the 2 levels of parking. And I think if you look at this floor plan and if you see how the layout of the parking is, we have a ramp that navigates us, a full level down on the ground from Cortlandt. So that's 24 feet. And as you come down, you can see you lost already about almost a quarter of that floor just with the ramp to get down there. And then the balance of this is, a double-loaded aisle with parking on both sides. So to comply with the parking requirements, the lot is skewed. We have, down on this lower floor, we have the aisle, 24 feet, and then parking spaces on either side at 18 feet. So all of the parking, or most of the parking for the project is provided down here on this lower level. So 34 out of the 52 spaces are located down on the lower floor. What we did as well to move some of the mechanical rooms and other rooms that we didn't want upstairs on the ground floor was to provide all of the utility rooms down here. So we do have utility rooms for all the meters, so incoming gas, water, sprinklers, gas already, electrical distribution panels, all of that is going to take place down on the basement. And, you know, for pedestrians or tenants that live in the building, we have 2 sets of stairs exiting this basement, the ramp, of course, and then 1 elevator at the center. Moving to my A101 sheet, this is the ground floor. So here you can clearly see on the north side of the page, which is the south, is the first entrance along Cortlandt, and that's the entrance that gives you access into that ramp that leads you down to the basement. And then as you drive a little further out, you have the second entrance, or the second parking garage, that gives you access to the balance of the parking on this level. And this, we have the balance of the 20 parking spaces up here. Also, on this first floor, we have the lobby that faces Academy. The lobby with the package room, mail room, elevator, all of that in the main lobby area there. And then we have the stoops, you know, set with all the landscaping area that was previously discussed along Academy. And then we have 1 residential unit, which is a 1-bedroom unit on this ground floor here. And that unit is accessible through that stoop, so you can walk from the street and you can go to that door and open with a key, or you can walk in the rear of the building and access a secondary lobby that we have. Or if you're driving, you drive up on Cortlandt Street on the parking garage and access that unit from the same lobby that I just discussed. And then 3 other important things we have here. We have bicycle spaces, a bicycle storage room for 32 bikes. So we do in discussions with the planner. I know the town wants to promote the use of bicycles, so we do have those here. We have a transformer vault room. As we know, we'll need one for power to come into the building underground. We'll go into the transformer vault and be distributed. And then lastly, the garbage room, which was previously discussed. We do have a garbage chute on all the floors. So if you're a resident here, you go into that garbage room and you'll be able to throw your garbage down the chute. There will be a compactor down here to minimize the number of pickups during the week. And that will be done, the pickup will be done by a carpet hauler. So all of that happening inside the building, as mentioned by Mrs. Belleville. No garbage is stored on the outside. Our sheet A102, this is the first residential floor. So the first residential floor over that parking floor. Here you see a distribution of the apartments. The breakdown here is 6 1-bedrooms and 3 2-bedroom units on this floor. We also have 2 amenities on this floor. We have a lounge space that the developer always does. You know, it's a lounge space that has a pool table and space for tenants to be able to sit inside. There's a back that you can access from that amenity space. And then we have a large gym or fitness center on this floor. We also have some space for storage for tenants on the corridor as well. And in the rear here by the stairs, you see that garbage room I mentioned, and that stacks on every floor close to the stair along Stevens Street. Sheet A103, this is our 3rd floor plan, so very similar to the floor below, except that we don't have all those amenities here, and those are replaced by residential units on this floor. So just to give you a breakdown, we have 8 1-bedroom units and 3 2-bedroom units on this floor. And 4th floor, very similar to the floor below, although the breakdown here is 10 1-bedroom units and 2 2-bedroom units. And then we finally get to our 5th floor, and this is where it's very clear what that step back is doing along Stevens. So I know I'm standing in front of some of you, but that dimension here along Stevens and the corner of Stevens and Academy, that setback is about 20 feet at that corner. You see the property line is skewed, so the building is not. So as the building develops, that setback at the corner at 2/3 through Academy is about 36 feet. So the building is really set back at that point. And this is what I mentioned. We were able to pick up this beautiful exterior deck space that has a lot of amenities for the tenants. We have a little small storage room that we left there to, on the winter times to put some of the things we don't want out there. We even provided a bathroom out there for tenants so they don't have to go in and out by each of their apartments. And then the balance of this floor is what I mentioned, that top floor, that we have units facing the rear of the property, facing the quick check. Our roof plan, so this is the top roof, right? So you see on the thick dark line here, that's the delineation of the lot, or the top floor units. And then you see below here the lower roof deck that we discussed before.
And that, just
Yes.
go back, that
Sure.
black is where the fifth floor is set back.
Exactly, yeah, so you can follow it on that line. Elevations, I always think the rendering is a little easier to understand, but, of course, we're just making annotation here of the materials. I'd like to just touch on a few things. There were comments on the letters, just to make sure that we address them. There were some comments about some testimony on the railing. So the idea for the railing here is for that to be done with a aluminum. Most likely will be in terms of tones, will match the rest of the building. So we're proposing black windows, black metal trims throughout the building. So a black anodized aluminum rail, so it never decays and stays nice and sharp for a very long time. The window grills we discussed already. Materials, we discussed what some of those materials are. They are called out here in the elevation. And I'd like to just flip through my other two elevation sheets, 201. So this is the elevation along streets, along Stevens and Cortlandt. And I think this is a good elevation, as mentioned by Mrs. DeVille before. Let me just, this dimension, and I'll mark the dimension along Stevens, Academy. That is the dimension I mentioned before, Mr. Bender, at 49'6". So that's the height of the building along Academy. And then about halfway through, as you saw, that's where the building steps up. So this is about 20 feet back. The building steps up that additional story. And that section of the building is where we have that dimension of 57.81. And that's where we transition. Lastly, elevation facing the quick check. So we do have, the lower level has some grills for ventilation of the parking garage. That will be mostly hidden by, the fence that was discussed in the prior testimony. And then we have, similar materials here. We have the brick sections going all the way up, some hard stucco and some metal accent panels along the windows. And then, I think lastly, just to touch bases on some signage. We have some signage. We only have 3 signs we're proposing. There are 2 signs above the garage doors, just stating parking, just so that people don't get confused. It's a garage door. Hopefully, they will understand that's a parking garage. But those are compliant with your signage or the signage that's required under the redevelopment plan, 12 inches high. And we have one on the sign, which is the building name or the building address. We don't have a building name yet. There's no branding that's finalized. But we're showing the building address, right now in the rendering. But that could be the building name, and then the number 81 for Academy Street. Other than that, we have some lighting, and I know there was discussion of lighting, whether lighting is upwards or down. So we do show in the rendering, for artistic effect, I guess, we're showing some lighting, axing.
That's on A3.
That's on A3, I apologize. So we do show some lighting, shooting out the building to accent that. We've had a discussion and a comment from your planner to ensure that the lighting is only down lighting and no up lighting. So we're okay in complying with that. And then we do have some signage for pedestrian safety. So we usually like to specify a convex mirror so that as you're coming out, with car, you can see pedestrians coming and navigate that. We also are proposing a small sign that lights up when the garage door opens. It says caution, so just pedestrians. And then we have a clearance bar, just to make sure a tall vehicle doesn't get into the garage and then they get stuck down there. So those are the things we have on our last sheet here. Other than that, I believe I touched on all the notes I had, I believe.
Just to go over some of the questions that were asked of Athens, I
Yes.
defer to you.
Sure.
You believe that the dimensions of the building, although slightly which deviate from the redevelopment plan, are necessary for proper circulation and layout of the building. Can you just expand a little bit on that?
Sure. So, you know, we started to conceive the project, and we look at the redevelopment plan, and, you know, there's a number of units that are allowed, there's certain setbacks and their heights, and usually what happens with planning is you have a set of standards that gives you a box, right? It gives you that volume that you try to fit your things in. Sometimes that box doesn't follow through on every single requirement, so we need to move it around. Sometimes, you know, the coverage, we're below the coverage that's allowed. We're allowed 90%, we're just about 89. And, you know, so the setbacks and the coverage don't drive exactly. And then the building height, or the number of units, or the number of parking spaces. So it's not a perfect science when, you know, when planners and townships, they develop a redevelopment plan. Those are the initial guidelines, and, you know, we need to come in and we need to see how we can make the puzzle fit. And that's, you know, and that's where we're saying, like, you know, the building is lower at the front than it could be, and then it's a little higher in the back, because we're trying to make that, trying to make that recipe fit, right, within the lot. And that's what we have, and that is the result of all that exercise, and that's why we have the, you know, those light side yards that have been modified, and that's why we lowered the front, you know, more than what we needed to. That's why we have, you know, the parking, we're able to accomplish the parking and the number of units that are contemplated here.
So the layout of the building allows you to get the parking to flow correctly.
Correct.
Have the right dimensions in the drive aisles.
Correct.
Have the correct number of spaces.
That's correct.
And also allows you to have a shorter facade or a shorter building in the front along Academy.
Correct.
Then have a little bit wider where the commercial uses are.
That's correct.
In your opinion, that's a good planning. That's good planning from an architectural standpoint.
I guess 100%. And I do think, you know, just these process. I mean, this ended up being a much better building than it was, and I give credit to the, you know, the talented professionals we interacted with. It was really a collaborative effort, and I think what we got here is a great product, and it's something that we're very proud of. So.
Thank you. We're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do I have any board members? Mr.
I got a
Venero?
question. In your plan, do you specifically say which materials you're going to use on the exterior?
We do. And I actually have a material board here that I completely forgot. If you want, I can bring it up and we can put it on the record. But yes, we're very clear on the materials. We have call-outs. The call-outs don't specify the exact brick, but I do have a finished board here. We can put that on the record.
Marianne is nodding that she would like you to show.
Oh, sure.
What did she say?
I said Ms. Pucci Carter, the board planner, would like us to show the material board, so we're happy to do that.
We're going to mark this as A5.
Yep. We can pass that out to the board. Is it big enough to have it?
I completely forgot.
Okay. So what, we're marking it as A5?
A5.
Yeah.
right.
Right, so
So I just have them side by side here. So we have, as I mentioned, we have 2 tones of brick.
Is it a brick veneer or is it an actual?
no, it's an actual brick. This is just cut
Okay,
because
no.
it's too heavy to bring. But they're cutting for us, thank God. Yeah, seriously. That's a good question.
So yeah, no, it's not a thin brick, it's a real brick. And we have 2 tones, as you can see in the rendering. So we have a darker tone with all those details that we, being incorporated into the facade. So that's this brick here. It is a brick from Glengarry, and the lower here is the lighter brick you see here. It has a mix of tones, so we go from a lighter tone to a darker tone, and that's the lighter brick you see on the facade. And then we have a cast stone, which you see at the bottom there, and that's all of these different elements we have throughout. Those porches. And then we have some stucco, as I mentioned, so it's a hardwired stucco, it's not EFIS, it's a real lath stucco, and that's the white elements you see on the top of the building, and just to, bring that nice, clean, cut edges, and just, really just to soften the building a little bit with all the brick. And then I don't have a sample of the windows here, but as I mentioned, the idea is a high-quality window that has the grills integrated into them, black frames, and we're playing on these different tones. So that's.
I like your use of materials. It's brick, it's not veneer.
Yep.
And if this application is approved, I'd like to make it a condition that you have to use the product you're displaying to us, and it has to look like similar to what we're seeing. Because we did have a project once that they showed us a beautiful drawing, and that wasn't what we got. So if this project is approved, I would like it to be a condition that the materials and products said tonight would be used and it would resemble this drawing.
Yeah, and Chris, they are marked on the exhibit. Correct?
They are marked in the exhibit, so I'll take a picture of it and we'll provide that as a part of the resolution compliance.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. On the level of the parking, how many apartments are on that level?
Just one,
Just, okay.
on the ground floor.
Sure. Was there any reason for doing that?
Yeah, so on the redevelopment plan, there was a requirement for residential units to be provided on the ground floor with the access from stoops. And I think the intent of that was to relate, that facade not to a parking garage, so that you wouldn't have, a wall with maybe, no windows, and that doesn't feel like a walkable, area. And I think the planner did a great job by saying, you know what, let's sink the parking a little bit and then provide the residential units with access from the street. Just like you have on a two-family house, right? You walk up the stairs and that was, I think, the genesis of this, and we wanted to pick up and continue with that logic as we develop the building. So we do have that one residential unit, but we also have a few other stoops that you see here. The second door, that is a stoop, much like the one that gives access to the unit, that gives you direct access to the garage. So if you're a resident in Park and you want to go out to Quick Check, you can walk out that door and then go around to Quick Check, or up, navigate the streets. Or if you're on your bike and you don't want to open the garage door, you can go through that door. So that's the second. And then the third stoop gives you access directly to the lobby. So, we envision, the nailman coming in and using that for that and packages, so on and so forth.
And then for the unit that's on that parking level, they wouldn't have access to a garbage chute. They would just have to walk their garbage out?
That's correct. And that's a very good point because we had that discussion. So we mentioned exactly that. They wouldn't have access to the garbage chute. They would have to walk into the garbage room and be able to dispose of it. But that would be one unit. And I think, the garbage chute for us is really a way to convey the garbage into a compactor. Because the minute you provide a compactor, you really reduce the number of pickups a week drastically. So if one unit is disposing garbage onto a container, it's not a big deal.
Sure, and can you just talk through the flow of that, going from basically the apartment to the chute? Like, what would they have to walk through, not walk through?
Oh, sure.
Just refer to the sheet.
So let me pick any residential floors or sheet. Maybe 104?
Sorry,
Oh,
very
you meant the ground
specifically
floor? Oh, you
on
meant
the ground floor, yeah.
Okay.
So this is the unit, right, at the bottom corner, Academy and Stevens. So that unit access is twofold. They can walk through the front on the stoops, right, and then they could walk around and access that recycle room, and open that door and just dispose the garbage there. So that would be the quickest. They could also walk in the back through that little lobby, walk around the building and come and do the same thing.
Okay, the first route, they have to go outside and to
Yes.
the recycle room?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, we, because it's garbage, what we try to do is really seal that room as much as we can. There's a fan that exhausts that onto the top of the building so that we don't get any smells. So the idea is to completely seal that from the rest of the building. And that's usually what we try to do with garbage rooms.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'm assuming that door is gonna be locked. How are they gonna gain access? Are you giving a key or something to the tenant on the first floor?
So the tenants, like most modern buildings, people don't have keys anymore. It's a cell phone, there's an app, there's a fob, so that garage door will be controlled the same way. So there'll be a fob, building management has access to it, the tenants will have. So that's, you use your phone.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Do you have any plans to put cameras on here for,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all of these buildings have cameras. This developer does install cameras throughout, so there are cameras throughout the property, garage, on the upper floors, amenity spaces, so there will be plenty of them.
Yes.
On the roof, is there any chance to,
Mr. Herbert, you keep telling me to leave.
oh, so, well, I want to talk to the person.
What can you do?
Is there any chance to, put some green up on the roof to help reduce, runoff?
Yes, we've been getting that question a lot. Every building wants a green roof. As you're aware, it's a maintenance intensive. The green roofs, it's not just putting planting there. You actually need to water it, right? So you need to put planting, but you also need to water. You need to take care of it, and if you want it to be a medium that's going to absorb, as you know, rainwater and capture it. The one thing is this developer likes to do solar on the buildings. I believe the other building here has solar. Most of the other buildings do. We'd rather do the solar just because we believe that generation is, it's a very positive way to do that. But I know we need to work with you regarding, stormwater. So we'll leave that open for communication, and if that's what we believe is the right way to accomplish that, we'll be willing to do that.
All right, I'll open up to the public now. Mr. Hanky?
Gary Hinton, 307 Fairway Avenue, Clover. On the top floor, that row of apartments, that's what makes it higher than what the variance is. So you need a variance for that, correct?
That's correct.
Did you get a variance yet?
No, not yet. That's what we're here for.
Okay. Is it necessary to have that? Because this way you cut down on the parking, you're just adding more parking spots, making it more congested. Yeah.
No, we believe the application, the way we have it, is how this building best functions, in terms of the development potential and, the way the layout works, where we have that upper floor and we have that, beautiful space there for the tenants, and, the way it really helps to buffer this neighborhood from that higher intensity use. So we believe that what we have is...
You can't do it without that floor if necessary. Yes.
No, I would say no.
I think you're overdeveloping here with that. Now on the parking, there's two-tiered parking?
Yes, there's 2 levels of parking, and that's...
Where's the ramp? That's the second floor.
So there's no second floor. So the ramp on A100 here, there's no second floor. There's a basement parking, and the ramp to go down to that basement is this ramp here. So it's the first garage door on Cortlandt. You enter and you go straight down, and that's the basement parking. And then the balance of the parking is on the ground floor, which is the second garage door. Closer to
One
the corner.
driveway, the top part there.
Yes.
It's
for the basement.
For the basement?
Yes.
Right, go down to the basement.
Yep.
Okay, now how many parking spots did you say that was on there? Because I thought I counted less.
The basement has...
the whole thing, what are you asking?
or just the basement? Yeah, the basement has 34
34?
out of the 52. Well, I could say 52. It's 54, we're not counting the 2 tenders, but yes, 34 out of the 52, and we have 18 spaces up.
18 there. Now, right there where the ramp is, above the ramp there,
Yes,
you have 4 parking spots right there?
correct.
How how is that car gonna get out? It looks like you have them, one backed up behind the other.
Right, so those are, these two spaces are the two spaces we've been calling them the tandem spaces. We're not accounting for those two spaces on our plans. So nowhere we accounting for those two spaces. But we are proposing them because we know them work, they work. We've done, there are various projects throughout the state that use tandems. It's like you have a single family house where you have a garage and you park behind it on the driveway. Right, so it's the same. They would go to the same unit.
They would go to a two-bedroom.
They'll be assigned to the same.
Somebody, husband and wife own
Correct.
that car, they could one park one behind the other.
Correct, they'll be
And
assigned.
then they'd have to move it to get the other car out.
Just like a single family house, right, where you have a driveway and a car.
Right,
Same condition.
Is that all closed in?
Yes.
Garage doors?
Correct.
What kind of ventilation you have in there for them?
We haven't done the calculations here yet, but most likely we will have mechanical ventilation. So we will have fans that are set up to exhaust from one side and then intake grills on the opposite side. So that we ventilate that garage with carbon monoxide detectors.
Right, and what
Yeah.
about fire exits and stuff?
We have them all. The building, it's a new building, it's meeting all the new, codes. So sprinkler, fully sprinkled building. We have a generator for that elevator to work during a fire, egress condition. We have 2 sets of stairs that goes all the way to the basement. The elevator, as I mentioned, has a backup generator. So in case there's a power failure, that will be working, as well as emergency lighting.
Now, the bottom picture here, it says
Yes.
Stevens Street.
Yes.
Actually, that's Academy that you're facing. right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just to clarify that, the title of the project is 81 Stevens because it's the address of the project. It's not saying that this road here is a Stevens, this is Academy, correct?
Right,
This
so
is just the title.
Around on Stevens Street.
Yes.
You have a picture of that?
I don't have a rendering of that, but I do have an elevation of that. Oh, one more. That's Stevens.
Okay, so that apartment that's down on the basement, on the
Mhm.
bottom floor, is that the door there?
Uh,
Where's the garbage bin coming in?
Yeah, so so in Stevens, that apartment has a window that faces Stevens, but they don't have a door that faces Stevens. This first door here is the garbage room. This here is the stair shaft, this window here. And then these 2 grills with the door, that is the transformer vault for electrical.
Has this been inspected by the fire, your plan's been done, inspected by the fire department to see if it...
That usually happens after a site
Correct.
plan approval.
Yes.
But we have to comply with the fire codes and they have to sign off on it.
Yes,
You're going for a variance here.
we go for variance and then,
Right, that's
correct.
correct.
thank you.
Yeah. I would just like to bring you back to the materials
Sure.
very quickly.
Yes.
One of the biggest impacts, bricks are beautiful.
Marianne?
Mike,
Is this working?
how's this, better? Okay. So the materials, the bricks are beautiful, but one of the things that you may know, others may not, is the impact of the mortar matters just as much as the brick.
Yes.
So I guess my question, the preference is always to have the mortar tinted in a color that complements the brick, and that would be tinted for each brick appropriately, so that it really makes the brick stand out and it adds to the quality of the project.
Absolutely, and we would have it no other way. I agree with you.
Okay, so you don't have any mortars on the sample, but if you could provide that to show that it would be tinted and what colors that would be, so that we can add that for the record.
When we provide a picture with the resolution compliance, we'll add the brick, the mortar samples,
Okay.
and then we...
The other item from the review letters was a question regarding a canopy over the stoops.
Oh, correct.
Because that's a very important for the users of the building to have protection as they're entering or when they're waiting to unlock the door or whatever.
So we're proposing the main entrance of the building lobby We are showing on the rendering a canopy, so we do intend to have a canopy there with the building address sign. And then we only have 2 other small canopies right now proposed above the 2 garage doors. We don't have an issue complying with the requirement. So you mean at the stoops here, you'd like a small canopy?
So
and
that,
no
so that
issues.
there's protection for people waiting.
If that's something that the board wants and that you,
It's
that's fine.
just very, it's people, it's a, people amenity.
That's fine.
The other question is on the rear amenity, the roof facade.
Yeah.
That will be the one that is most highly visible. This is a beautiful facade and it faces the residential neighborhood across the street. So are the sides. And the rear is also attractive. It just is a little simpler than the others. And I'm wondering, that's the stucco, that's the white. I'm wondering if you have the ability to add a little bit more, maybe an alternative brick on some of those panels, not all of them. You still leave the white because the stucco is a component of the building. But if there's a way just to provide more interest, because everyone in town will be passing the back of that building.
Okay, we'll be happy to work with you on that, that's fine.
So I'm not exactly sure how to word all that, but my best guess is that the applicant will agree to work with the borough planner on borders that complement the brick and an alternative brick on some panels in the back of the building.
Marianne, is that acceptable the way?
Or some other material that is
Yeah, no,
complementary.
the brick that's used in the front would be best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to incorporate one of the alternative bricks into some of the vertical patterns within.
Okay. And also there's an agreement to provide a small canopy at each stoop.
Yeah.
And the mortar.
And the-
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Franklin,
Could you speak the tag louder, please?
What do you want? You have my name?
Could you speak a little louder?
Yeah, that's close. You don't got to talk on top of me, but I just need you. Thank you.
In regards to the front of the building, that's on Academy Street, like he said.
Correct.
Why are we using 81 Stevens Street address?
That is the address we received in the beginning of the project, and we have just been using that. But we don't have
Yeah,
a...
but in the end, the town will
Yes.
pick the address for the property.
Exactly.
All right, because today, everybody's buying food online, buying property online. That's going to be very confusing. Somebody has to come and look for 81 Stevens Street. They're going to be dropping in probably at 81 Stevens Street.
That's a good point.
They're not going to find it.
It's a good point. I think the town and the post office have to coordinate on the final address.
That's a pet peeve. Even on my street, people only, we have an ordinance, the town should have about 10, 12 years ago, you must have numbers on your building. Half my neighbors don't have them. So we get people ringing my doorbell, you know where this number is.
It's a great point, yes. Thank
So,
you.
let's get that out of the way. The outdoor space that you mentioned, that's the only outdoor space on the roof, correct?
I think, a lot of the units have balconies. I would say 80% of the units have balconies, so those are all exterior spaces to the units, right, to the users. And whoever lives in the building, that is, other than the front stoops here, that we have some outdoor space up front, most of the spaces for the tenants outdoors is on the roof.
Is that roof area going to be fenced in?
Yeah, there will be, well, not fenced, there will be a parapet, right, that to provide proper safety precautions, but it's about a 2,000 square foot space that's dedicated to that roof area.
And how high will that parapet be?
42 inches.
Chris, there are legal requirements.
Legal requirements, correct.
The reason I asked that, there was an article in the paper about 2 months ago about the increase in suicides. People jumping off roofs and back. One just happened, another one in New York, just about a week or two ago.
Understood.
So I hope that's safe enough to prevent people.
You meet all those.
And also, you said you designed a very nice looking building make it look good with the surrounding neighborhood, you have residential facing residential, etc. The problem is, in front of the building, across the street on Academy, and on Cortlandt Street, yeah, you got residential, but they're nice little one-family house, two-story, one-family house. So I don't see how this is so nice and complementing the neighborhood. You know, this is not high-end building, it's more high-density building, and it doesn't comply with the neighborhood. You've got one-family houses on both sides of you.
Again, we're addressing a redevelopment plan.
3 stories.
Yeah.
2 families.
2 families and 3
Probably
stories.
close to 40 feet.
I don't question that.
2 family.
Yeah, but at the peaks.
All right, I don't like it. The garbage, you got a private hauler. How are they gonna get the garbage out? Is this gonna be a containers or pails or?
Yeah, so there's building management. The hauler is scheduled with building management. Hey, we'll be there Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6, 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever the time they schedule. And the building management will go to that, you know, when they're coming. They usually call them, you know, the building management has that contact. They will call them and say, we'll be there in a couple of minutes. They will go out and pull the garbage out in containers. The hauler loads it and containers go back inside and they leave. It's a very quick process.
So the garbage man will park on Stevens Street?
Correct. And load it.
Pick it up. And the owner will pay for the garbage disposal?
Correct.
It's another thing which just come to my attention about a month ago. It's, one of my customers asked me to come, they had windows installed, and the new trend seems to be black windows. She's an elderly woman. She got sucked into 3 times the price I think they should have cost for her. But then this summer, you know, we had 90, 95 degree windows, and she had a thing to talk to her neighbor. She leans on the window, you know, black absorption, she burns her arms. So I don't know what this new thing is with black windows. It makes everything hot, and in the long run, I don't think the material is going to last as long with this here. It's just something new now. Everybody's doing black windows. I don't see the purpose. Can you tell me the purpose of the black windows?
It's aesthetics, right? Like it could be pink, right? We had Barbie this year, and everything was pink. You know, it's I don't know what to tell you. We do, you know, we do go with the trends. The important thing about a building like this, it needs to address what the public is demanding, right? You want the building to be successful. You don't want this empty. You want a beautiful building here when you know, new people here that are, you know, living in your town or providing you beautiful amenities to people that want to maybe sell a house and they want to move into a building like this that has all these amenities. So, you know, we design a building to go with the trends.
And just one final personal question. If you have a beautiful one-family house, would you want that across the street from you?
Well, those are mostly 2 families, but yes, I would.
You don't have to answer me.
Any other?
Yeah, the drainage from the roof. Where do your leaders go? How do you drain the roof water?
Yeah, I don't believe I have to testify to that, but we are, so the roof is going, all the water is going to be collected on, it's a flat roof, so it will be collected on roof drains, not leaders or gutters or anything like that. So it will be collected and they run inside the building, and when they get to the parking level, they navigate to where we're going, close to where we're going to discharge that to the underground. So it's all returned to the building. You're not going to see any gutters or leaders on the outside of this building.
When you say the underground, what do you mean?
Well, you will connect to the underground facilities they have, right? The storm.
Belleville storm system.
Well, we can bring the civil engineer back to address those questions if you want to be more specific on those. That's the engineer.
Somebody else will answer that.
I mean, we did talk about that, but we're discharging the stormwater into the system that we're legally permitted to do so, and we'll work with the township engineer on the modifications we talked about earlier, as well as some of the additions that were requested by the board.
But it's going into our existing storm.
Correct.
Well,
We're going to, Mr. Franklin, we're going to come up with a plan. The town engineer is going to work with them and retain some of the water. They agreed to that, and it's gonna be a condition of the application.
I'll speak about that at the end. You know that's not gonna work, it's awful.
right, thank you. Mr. Sheldon, next.
Good evening again, Michael Sheldon, 47 Floyd Street. Direct questions this time.
Thank you.
I know there are two parking levels. Are the residents able to circulate internally? It wasn't clear to me if there are two different access points externally, so the two parking levels are disconnected or disjointed?
Correct. On a vehicle perspective, yes. I mean,
Okay, all right. There is no way you can, with this configuration, have internal circulation?
No.
All right. I know the building consists of 32 one-bedroom and 8 two-bedroom. Are all the one-bedroom units approximately the same square footage, or is there a range of, because I don't have the plans, I just would like to know what is typically the square footage for the one-bedroom apartments? If you have a max and a min, or some average?
I usually do have that for my office. For some reason, on this project, I didn't get the summary.
But just at a quick glance here, we have, the smallest one bedrooms I see are around 660, roughly. The larger one bedrooms I see are close to 1,000 or just over 1,000. And the two bedrooms that we are showing are ranging from just over 1,000 as well to about 1,200.
So the larger one-bedroom apartments, would you say, are approximately 1,000 square feet?
Yeah. And we only have two of those.
Just two other ones. The planning board members are very sensitive, cognizant of the fact that sometimes these oversized one-bedroom apartments can be converted to two bedrooms. So I assume that everyone on the board has done their due diligence and that in these larger one-bedroom apartments, there's nothing marked as a study or a den or a library that can be subsequently retrofitted into another bedroom.
Correct. That is actually a comment from your planner. She had that on the report. So there were two, so the previous configuration of the building, we had 10 two-bedroom units. And in the process of, meeting the requirements of the 20%, we converted two bedrooms into two one-bedrooms within the same footprint. In the process of doing that, we took one of the bedrooms out, we took all the walls out, we took the doors out, and then that became, part of the living room, or it became a dining room. So we labeled them as such. It's not like there's a little piece of a wall that's right in front of the door. It's an open space to the public area of the apartment, I would say.
During your testimony, you answered one of the questions I had, and I wanted to know the elevator situation. So there's one elevator in this building?
Yes.
Okay, all right. With it being 5 stories, I think the break point is 5. Once you get 5 stories, you have to have an elevator. Is it six stories?
No, not really. It depends on how many people you're serving and the travel distance and time, but yeah.
And I'm glad that you have a backup generator
Yes.
in place for the elevator.
Yeah, and the elevator is part of the accessible means of egress for somebody in a wheelchair. That's why we have that generator.
Okay, all right. The last thing I wanted to say, the gentleman at 58 Academy Street, when he testified earlier, he said that he never received any notice. Do you have proof of legal notice that he was actually served? Because this property, as I'm sure you're all aware, has gone through many machinations over the years. And most recently, when they discovered that the meets and bounds, they weren't consistent, and so the Board of Ed last year had to give away the last little bit of property. I'm wondering if 81 Stevens Street is listed as the official address of this. The gentleman, our veteran at 58 Academy, whose home is directly across the street from this project, if they're measuring from the midpoint of Stevens Street.
Before you go into that, can you answer that very quickly?
We actually over-noticed from the property, so instead of, how the property was subdivided with the project, just to be on the safe side, we did a radius from the whole thing.
Right.
So everybody that was on the radius given to me by the town was noticed.
I'm just very concerned with this gentleman who lives across the street.
Then my suggestion that's happened, people have said that, I do a lot of applications, I would say go to the tax assessor and just make sure you're properly registered, that's what I would suggest.
Because the Belleville had a situation about 10 years ago.
All right, we don't want to get...
Well, the zoning board came case that approved was overturned upon appeal because they discovered that some of the residents within 200 feet hadn't been noticed. So I just want to, this wouldn't
No,
be
I
a
think his
precedent. It has
questions
happened
are-
before here in
Right.
Belleville.
Just to build on that, he just didn't mention that on all the other applications, disassociated with them, the quick check too, and probably even the school board thing, he didn't receive notice. So there might be something wrong in the tax department that's not registering his address properly.
All right, well, then that opens you guys up to an appeal and possibly overturn. Mr. Mellon smirks, but this is what happened to the Coptic Church case back in 2012.
Not questions for this expert.
No, it's just a general concern that should
Not
be.
time for general concerns. That's later.
Curiosity at the very least to all of you. Thank you.
Any other questions from the public? Sir?
Hello. Can you restate my name?
Yep.
Chris Sabatelli. First question, apartments or condos? Is there rentals?
Rentals.
Rentals. The rooftop amenities, is that just for the 54 people directly out or for the whole building?
Is the whole
The
building.
whole, okay. Is there, people living in the neighborhood, we have to be concerned, father, I don't live there, but my father does, with sound coming from that. If there are parties happening late in the evening or something, the sound can spill out.
Right, it's a good point. And whenever, we're proposing roof decks now, there was a time that nobody wanted roof decks, now everybody wants roof decks. So we get this kind of question a lot. Most building management, and I know this developer, they usually restrict the use until 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock, the lights go off, and then people are asked to, vacate. And, and you really want that because people living underneath, you don't want people walking around, so, yeah.
We're fine with that being a condition.
A condition,
as well.
yeah.
The board will impose that. That's fine.
Usable time.
Sounds good. On the same topic of the roof, where are the HVAC units and you mentioned the generators? On the fourth floor roof or up on the third?
Yeah, good question. There is a generator that sits on that, on the roof deck, so we marked them here. So that's the generator, that's where it's going. And the mechanical units you mentioned, I guess the splits for air conditioning, all our units are being proposed now with P-tax, and we have the grills, that's why I'm showing the grills and the rendering with the integrated. The few splits that we will have will be servicing the main roof area, and those are very small because they're mini split. So they're most likely going to be sitting on this lower roof here as well.
And so the generators are within sound range of going out to the neighborhood?
Yeah. The generators are usually encased, and as you know, they work once a week because they have to turn on and turn off to ensure it. But other than that, they're not running unless there's a major emergency.
And Chris, you have to meet certain noise,
Yes, we do.
certain noise requirements that for the DEP that you have to comply with.
Correct. And those are,
Wood studs, steel studs, what is it for?
wood.
It is wood. And I always seem to think that brick, rule of thumb shouldn't go above 4 stories. I thought it was general, that this goes to 5 with the brick?
Yeah, so again, it looks like you're in the field, so good questions. Yeah, the brick is usually 4 stories just because you need to anchor it back to the building. We have a transfer deck that's concrete, so if you really do we have 4 stories above the concrete, and we anchor it there, and that is completely independent than the brick below. Yeah.
You mentioned stairs, the stoops out front, which I agree with, it's great to have in the redevelopment plan. Where's the ADA access? Is there a way into that apartment on the first floor?
Yeah, so that one apartment has access through the garage, as I mentioned. There's a rear lobby, so that's level, and I guess that would be the only, yeah. And then the stoops, you always have access through other areas. So the main entrance area it's flush with the outdoor grill.
That doesn't have a stoop?
That doesn't have a stoop, no.
I see.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one. Cesar Roca, 54 Rutgers Street. So there is no planning for guests?
Oh, guest parking. Well, that is considered within the, we have 10 parking spaces that are dedicated for, above. So we have 1 space for every 1 bedroom, 2 spaces for every 2 bedroom, or additional room, which we have. And then we have 10% of the units, which is 40, 10% for Is that right, though, on the counts? Yeah, four. Yeah, so redevelopment design accounts for it. So we do have parking.
Every tenant, one of those spaces would then be.
Yes, yes.
Any other questions? Close this portion?
Yep, you want to take a 2-minute, like a those blank sheets for
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Good.
Order? Are we ready for our next testimony?
Yes, Madam Chair, we're up to Mr. Sackler.
See, there's too much going on.
There is an extra mic, but we're gonna, I would allow that.
Yeah, when the public comes up, I think
We're still missing Lawrence.
All right. Hopefully it's quiet. Continue, please.
Okay. You want to wait till he comes back? Or?
Go into the bathroom, or I think we're.
Yeah, we're all right.
All right, so we're back on the record. The next witness I have, Madam Chair, is Matthew Seckler from Stonefield Engineering and Design. We're going to qualify him both as an expert in the field of traffic engineering and as a professional planner as well.
Swear the testimony shall. Let me turn this on. You swear the testimony shall get you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
And please give us your name and business address for the record.
My name is Matthew Seckler, that's S-E-C-K-L-E-R, with Stonefield Engineering and Design. Address is 92 Park Avenue, Rutherford.
Just for the record, that all the board members are back. You need to hear his qualifications, you'll accept them as both? Okay. So Matt, just some foundational questions. You visited the site and the surrounding area,
Yes, I have.
and you reviewed the relevant portions of the redevelopment plan that pertain to this application?
Yes,
And you reviewed all the plans and reports associated with the application?
correct.
And you've heard all the testimony thus far?
Yes.
All right. Why don't you break your testimony into two components? Why don't you start with your traffic testimony first, and then we can go into professional planning.
Absolutely. And as it relates to the traffic testimony, I'm going to start utilizing Exhibit A1, but I've turned it upside down because I really like north being on the top and south being on the bottom. Just to orientate the board, I flipped it on you, but I think hopefully this is a little bit easier to see. As part of this project, we did perform a traffic impact study. In addition, our office was also the traffic engineers of record for the Quick Check project, so this is an area that we've known, we've counted over the years as part of that project and as that entitlement process went through as well. One of the key aspects of this project of this area is twofold. One relates to the amount of traffic that will be generated. How much traffic is coming from this 40-unit development? And to come up with that calculation, we utilize what is called the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. This is a definitive source used by the county, by the state. Anytime you permit anything in the state of New Jersey, you go to that book, you put in how many units for residential development, how many units you have, and it will project how much traffic you're going to generate during the busiest hours. This is a compilation of data where engineers like myself have counted sites that are in operation. It's not a number that comes out of the sky. We've counted sites that are 20 units, 40 units, 50 units, 60 units, all throughout the area, counted how many cars come in and out. We compile that into one publication, and that allows us to look at, okay, if we have a 40-unit development, how much traffic is generated from that development. For development of this size, you typically see in your busiest hours about 15 or 16 trips an hour, so about a car every 4 minutes. They're not always evenly distributed. It's not like car comes out, you wait 4 minutes, next car comes out. But in terms of the hour that you'd be sitting out there if you watch this driveway, or these driveways, because we have two, it would generate about 16 trips, mainly coming out in the morning and in the evening, and Saturday it's a come and go, depending on when people leave for their weekend activities. One of the key aspects of this project, and it was alluded to earlier, and I think obviously your engineer may have a little bit more of the specific details about the improvement project being done along at the intersection right at the bridge and Rutgers Street, is the fact that it is going to reduce the amount of traffic that comes down both Stevens and Cortlandt and make a left. Because what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to stay on Main, make a left directly for those people that want to take the bridge and go across the bridge into Hudson County at that location. So one of the key aspects I looked at was really how many cars that are coming down today along Cortlandt Street, along Stevens Street, because I'm not going to come up here and say there's no traffic out there. There is traffic out there continuously coming southbound and specifically making those lefts. In the evening rush hour, we see about 75% of the cars on Cortlandt Street make a left turn. About over 90% of the cars on Stevens Street makes a left turn. Now, not every single one of those cars is going to disappear and take Main Street, because some of those people may be coming from points north, but all those people that are coming off of areas kind of northeast up here and taking Main Street, that'll alleviate a significant amount of the congestion that is out there today. Again, 75% of the traffic on Cortlandt Street, over 150 an hour, are making that left turn. A portion of them move over. Our 40 trips is a drop in the bucket. And that said, not all 40 of our trips are going to be coming necessarily going out to the south. If someone working north of here, they want to take the Lincoln Tunnel, they may be coming, they may take Cortlandt Street driveway, make a right turn and work themselves up to getting on 21 further north of the area. So again, when you look at the improvements that are being contemplated in the area, that congestion relief along Cortlandt and Stevens Street is going to be massive. I know the project is not in the ground today, but neither is the project we're proposing for you. Even if we get approved tonight, if the board finds that this approvable, we still have a lot of work to do, both in plans as well as obviously construction. So it probably may work out well in terms of when this project comes online and the improvements at the intersection to the east of us coming online. So I do think, from a traffic perspective, again, generally a drop in the bucket, one car every 4 minutes. I understand the way traffic is now, even one more car may feel like a lot, but you do have relief coming down the pike with the fact that you can make a left turn from Main Street to go over the bridge. That will relieve a lot of the traffic in the area. So from a traffic perspective, that's one of the things we've been looking at from this project's perspective, development. Secondly is obviously the parking. First off, I'm going to state for the record, we do meet the parking ratios. We're not seeking a parking variance as it relates to the number of stalls. Your redevelopment plan, which again was put together by professionals that obviously your governing body had to agree to it, came up with the specific parking ratio. 1 space for every 1-bedroom unit, 1 additional space for every 2-bedroom unit, and a visitor space for every 10 units in the building. That is being provided within our garages. And therefore, again, we do meet your parking demand. I've also taken a look at even U.S. Census data, looking at specifically within Belleville for units that are, for households that are 1 or 2 people households, which generally is what you'd expect in kind of a building that is mainly 1 bedrooms, 80% are 1 bedroom, so you expect you'll have either 1 or 2 people living in there. For the areas that are east of Washington, the census actually allows us to look at what is the characteristics for people that live east of Washington or 1 and 2 household developments, 1 or 2 household units. We were able to determine that based on that, we would expect there to be 49 cars in this building. So if the people in this building are similar to the people that live the east of Washington, this neighborhood, we'd expect there to be 49 units with cars in this building. And again, we have 54 spaces, but again, 2 of them are tandem, so we'll consider them 52 spaces. So overall, we believe that this is a development that does comply with your redevelopment plan as it relates to parking, will not significantly impact traffic, especially with the relief coming down the pike. And therefore, from a traffic perspective, we do not see there is a negative impact on the general roadway network. Coming in and out of the driveways, I know there's some questions about sight distance and pedestrian access. We do have signs that would alert anyone walking by when there is an interaction, when there's going to be a car driving in or out of the driveway. When the garage is ready to go up, there'll be signage. And again, that can also be made audible so that anyone walking on the street will be aware that there is someone that may be approaching coming out of the garage. In addition, we do have proper sight distance, so when you're coming out of these driveways, you can see to your right or left. And again, hopefully what they'll be seeing is a lot less congestion on these roadways. We are fairly far back on Cortlandt Street. Again, I do know there are times where the queue may spill almost all the way back to our driveways. But again, we hope with the relief and congestion located along the Rutgers Street corridor that, again, we will not have cars necessarily queued up in front of our driveway. We always have the ability to make the right turn out of our site, again, head north for those people that want to head to points north of here and potentially east of here as well. So again, from a traffic perspective, we do believe that we meet the requirements of your redevelopment plan, and we will not have a significant negative impact.
So in terms of the parking and the aisles within the building, all of them are properly designed and they're all the appropriate widths and lengths?
Correct.
Okay, and we meet the ADA requirements for spaces as well?
We meet the ADA requirement, we also meet the EV parking requirement, although all of my numbers do not take into the 10% credit that we would get under the state statute. We still meet the parking even without that credit.
Okay. And as you indicated before, the site distance on Cortlandt is adequate?
Yes.
And in terms of Stevens, you have no issue with the way that the applicant has decided to pick up the garbage?
Correct. Again, garbage for a building like this, potentially 2 times a week. It's scheduled, so it's not like the truck is out there for an extended period of time. It really probably is no longer than any municipal disposal within the area. And again, that was a redevelopment plan requirement to make sure that garbage is not left out on the street for hours and hours and hours. And again, we do have a compactor which allows us to have a much smoother pickup. We're not basically bringing out 14 to 16 kind of different garbage cans that need to be dumped into the back of the truck.
All right, and the numbers of trips entering and exiting the driveway in the peak hour don't reach even close to the levels of significance under DOT standards, correct?
Correct. And again, understand this is a sensitive area where there's a lot of traffic and a lot of queuing. Again, the benefit that we have here is that, I would say our neighbor to the south, Quick Check's contribution and allowing for the redesign of the intersection at Rutgers and Main Street really is going to take a significant amount of traffic off of these 2 southbound roadways and move it over to the Main Street.
Okay. And in terms of pedestrian access on the sidewalks, have you evaluated that? Do you feel that that's been designed properly?
It's been designed properly, and again, not necessarily from a safety perspective, but from a streetscape perspective. Obviously, we are continuing the streetscape improvements all the way around.
Okay. So in your professional opinion, no negative impacts as it relates to parking or traffic as it relates to this proposal?
Correct.
All right, why don't you go into your planning testimony?
Certainly. And from a planning perspective, again, I think obviously we need to recognize that this is a redevelopment plan. Basically, governing body has set up a specific set of regulations for this property. One of the interesting things is this is an area that is a confluence of a number of different zones. This is not an area where you basically have a blanket zone all across this aerial A1. There is a bunch of different zones in the area. You've got the B1 district directly to our west. We have the B2 district, which is a business district, right to our east. We have a 2-family zone to our north. We have a mixed-use zone kind of across from the Quick Check along Rutgers Street. We have another 2-family zone kind of to the bottom right-hand portion of this page. So this is an area where you do have this kind of mix of development or zoning all in this area. 2-family, business 1, business 2, a whole mix of different development types. And it's interesting that as this property itself got redeveloped, and again, this being the old school site, probably wasn't functioning, I think, since 1980 or maybe before that. Obviously, had other functions, administrative and storage-wise over the years. But it is also split similarly commercial and residential, similar to all the areas that are around it. And again, we are permitted use in the zone. We're not needing any relief in terms of we don't need to justify why we're building multifamily here. It was told to us, this is a zone that allows multifamily, but I wanted to kind of give the context of the whole area and the various zones that are around us. In terms of the property itself, I know this aerial A1 is a little zoomed out, so it doesn't show it as much in detail, but the property is not a perfect rectangle. So we do have on our eastern side, the Stevens Street, is a narrow frontage. I think it's about 13 feet narrower of a frontage than our Cortlandt Street. So when you're trying to design a building, and you're trying to build a building that normally likes to be rectangular, and you stick it in a polygon shape that has some pinch points, it does add to some challenges. In addition, one of the things that I think we were trying to do as part of the design of this building, and now I've brought up A3, is that the look of this building was not meant to be a monolith, single frontage, multifamily building. It was meant to mimic kind of a townhouse style development as per your redevelopment plan. So there is a lot of different undulations as we kind of go through the property. So when you're looking at things like setback, you have a property that squeezes itself on one side, and you have a building that is not one continuous frontage. It has all these undulations, which when you really look at the plans, you have this kind of changing setback as you kind of work through the property. And I do think, again, it's because of the style of development, it's because it's to mimic, separate townhouses, all kind of lined up in a row. Although obviously this is under one singular building, it's meant to have that kind of look to it. So again, I think that we've, as part of this project, looked to the redevelopment plan and mimic that. And what it does is it leads us to a couple of conditions, a couple of variances that we're seeking here before the board. But I do think that generally they're de minimis in nature and they do not create significant negative impacts. And I'll kind of group a couple of them into one category. We do have some variances as it relates to setback, and I'll bring back the site plan. Yeah, it's A2. So we are seeking relief as it relates to our setback along Stephen Street, Cortlandt Street, and all the frontage. We'll start with Cortlandt Street, Stephen Street, and the rear of the site, which is backs up to the quick check portion. And again, I now brought this exhibit A2 back up. North is now down to just confuse everybody, unless you know what, let's keep my testimony consistent, and we'll flip it around. So, if you were to zoom out and look at the properties that we would be most affecting as it relates to the setbacks along Cortlandt Street and Stephen Street, those are the Business 1 and Business 2 zones. Those are businesses directly across the street from us on both of those frontages. Both of those businesses actually have 0-foot setbacks. So if you look at the characteristic of the property that's immediately across from us, the one that would be most affected by the relief we're seeking, which is the side yard setback, those are 0-foot setback business buildings. So I think the fact that although we do not meet the requirement, which would be 12.5 feet, which would shrink our building by about 14 or 15 feet inward, which again would reduce the amount of parking spaces, potentially limit the number of units within the building, we would actually be inconsistent with the properties that are on either side of us, which again, those businesses right up on the street frontage. As it relates to the back half, again, this back half of the building, this is backing up to the quick check. Again, I don't see a negative impact. We kind of share a rear property line with each other. What you have seen, and if you are aware, there is a great difference between the two properties. Quick Check does have, I'd say, they don't really have a lot of activity kind of backing up to us. And I think what you've seen as these kind of floors go up, you have a mix of, different types of balconies and terraces and things like that all on the rear property line. So it's not a continuous, let's say, wall of windows that is looking out onto the Quick Check property, but I don't see a negative impact with the development of the Quick Check to the rear of our site. As it relates to our front yard setback, I think this is actually a really good image which shows that as it relates to our setback along Academy Street, the only area that we're in violation is the area that is on the northeast corner. It's a little stretch of the building. The remainder of it is compliant with the setback. Again, it does allow us to have the sufficient number of parking spaces, which I think was of key importance when looking at the various regulations within the zoning ordinance. And it's important to remember that the setback of this building as you go up starts pulling itself further and further and further back. So when you get to those higher floors, you actually have a greater setback along Academy Street than even what is shown on the site plan, because this is just at the first floor. So again, when it comes to designing buildings and balancing variances, I think we want to look at what appears to be, what should be the most important variance, what is really a key aspect of this development. I think, honestly, parking and the internal circulation are two of those aspects. And if we were to shrink the building on either side, shrink the building on the Academy Street frontage, what you'd end up losing is a circulation pattern and parking. You likely probably couldn't even get this second level of parking in here because you need to fit this lobby somewhere in the building. That would have to slide itself into where we have the drive aisle. And again, in order to get the parking to work, we actually need two separate access points. So if we had only one access point, one parking level, sure, we could move this back, but we would have probably 14 less parking spaces, and we'd be seeking a variance from that condition. So when I look at parking standards in this zone, in this area, which again, there is a limited amount of on-street parking, or setbacks, which is limited to some specific areas, I think that the setback variance is one that is least impactful and allows for this development, which has so many other positives as it relates to the redevelopment plan, kind of go forward. Another variance we are seeking is related to the height. as the number of stories of residential units, as well as the height itself. We're seeking the variance by about 3 feet. Again, that 3 feet, rear of the site, really closest to the quick check properties where we have that variance. No one on Academy Street would see it. The Academy Street frontage, as you saw here, you only see the 4 stories, you don't see the 5th story, and this height is compliant, what you see on this image. What is not compliant is in the way back, what you would see, again, from the quick check portion of the property. And again, I think that it allows us to build what your redevelopment plan envisions. Your redevelopment plan envisions 40 units on this site. It envisions a certain unit mix, the 20% 2 bedrooms, 80% 1 bedroom. It envisions a certain level of parking, amount of parking in development. And it envisions the stoops. Because we have a residential unit on the first floor, which is encouraged, we end up, when you add it up, 5 levels of residential floors. That is also a variance, we're only permitted to have 4. It's because that 1 unit on the first floor. But again, I think the fact that we kind of had that first floor access allows us to have a lot more of an interesting frontage. Again, the goal of the redevelopment plan was not to have basically parking grates along the entire frontage of these residential streets. It's to have something that looks residential. And I think that's what we've accomplished here, although we do need a variance because we have 5 floors of residential. So overall, again, I think this is an application that meets a number of the goals that your redevelopment plan had. And again, these are not goals that I've come up with as part of the redevelopment plan, but your redevelopment plan spoke to the fact that they wanted to expand housing opportunities, improve the aesthetic appearance, and have compact pedestrian-friendly development. I believe this meets all of that. This is compact development. We have the bike, we have the streetscape improvements coming to this area. It's improved aesthetics. Again, what was out here previously, either the school as it before it got demoed, along with the kind of broken parking field that everyone was talking about earlier. This is clearly an improved aesthetic and expanding housing opportunities. Again, this is a zone that allows for multifamily development of 40 units with the requirement of, based on our unit mix, 52 parking spaces, and we're checking off all those boxes. So I do believe that we are advancing those purposes of your master plan and redevelopment plan. I don't see the variances that we're seeking having a substantial negative impact.
All right. And so based on what you discussed and those goals, would you agree that Purpose A and Purpose H of the municipal land use law are advanced by the variances being sought?
Yes, I do. Again, I think this advances the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Again, because you've put together a redevelopment plan, we're building per the uses that are permitted. We are advancing that. I do believe we are also advancing Purpose H, as well as I, as part of this development. Specifically, I think this is the proper type of use for this zone, and I do believe that it does promote, again, the visual environment of the area.
All right, and Purpose H being proper circulation within the building and proper parking as well?
Yes.
All right, and in terms of negative, any substantial detriment to the public good, you spoke about traffic already. Did the stormwater management and the additional items that the board has required of the applicant, how does that in any way affect your opinion on substantial detriment to the public good?
And again, I think that, in hearing this testimony, hearing the application be going back and forth tonight, I think this is exactly what's supposed to go on at these boards where, while we've designed it to meet the minimum threshold for stormwater, the board has come out, the board's engineer has come out, board members have come out and said, listen, we'd like you to enhance that, increase it. The applicant is willing to do that, and I think that is, again, a benefit beyond not just what's out there today, which is what the minimum requirement is, but to go above that and to be able to provide more detention on this site so that we're not necessarily, doing creating issues that were already existing in the past and just kind of saying, let them continue. We're going to improve the situation, and I think that is a positive criteria as part of this development.
And would you agree that the additional requirements that I think the board will make conditions regarding the brick and the mortar and the other material requirements, does that impact your evaluation of Purpose I of the municipal land use law?
Yes, and again, I know this board is, having worked on a number of applications here, does insist on those materials to be consistent with what we're showing here, and I do believe that this is an attractive building, clearly enhancement over what was out there previously or out there now, and I think we're really, cleaning up this corner or this property, and it's an enhancement from a visual aspect.
All right, and based on the goals that you believe, that you stated that you believe we're achieving from the redevelopment plan, would you agree that there's no substantial impairment to the zone plan, master plan, or redevelopment plan?
Correct.
All right, so in your professional opinion, the benefits of the variances being sought would substantially outweigh any detriments?
Yes, I do.
And that this is a better planning alternative as designed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all we have on the record.
Do I have any questions from any board member? No. All right. Yes, I'll open up to the public. Mr. Hinton?
Yes. Gary Hinton, 307 Fairway Avenue, Belleville. On the top floor, how many apartments are up there?
I think it's 7, I'll get you the exact number. It's 7 units.
7 units. Are they 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom?
There are all 1 bedroom.
They're all 1 bedroom?
Yes. And again, they all face the back.
Mr. Frantantoni?
Good evening, sir. Thank you for speaking loudly. We can all hear you. Thank you. Are you a traffic expert?
Yes.
All right. All right, you spoke about all the traffic. I agree with you. I even think it's a little worse than you saw. I don't know if you're here, how often you're here. But you said that new improvements at Main and Rutgers are going to alleviate the problem. So relief is coming down the pipe.
I said it's going to improve the situation. I can't promise there'll never be traffic again, but it will take traffic off of Cortlandt and Stevens and keep it on Main.
When have you visited the site?
I've been visiting this area since going as far back as 2017.
And how much time and at what hours were you here?
I've been here during morning and evening rush hour, during the week. I have not been here on the weekend, I'll tell you that.
Okay. Again, are you familiar with, I mean, if you're going east and west, we have a thing called the Passaic River here.
Yeah.
And we have the Rutgers Street Bridge. Where's the nearest way to get over to the Passaic River?
I mean, this is it. Rutgers is the closest.
Where's the next one? Well, I'll say it's about 2.5 miles north of Conway, correct?
Yes.
Or about 3 or 4 miles south.
In Harris, yeah, the Newark, Harris,
In Newark,
yeah.
in Newark and all that. So, I'm very familiar with this site. For the past year, I've lived on that corner. Not lived on the corner, but I've been maintaining the house down there for a friend who passed away. You cannot get out of your driveway, all right? It's impossible. Now, these improvements, and when the state was up here surveying, I happened to be there because I was taking care of that house for a year, and I talked to them. And they told me what they're doing. Oh, they're going to reconfigure this and reconfigure that. They were going to take some property from Main Street, this west side of Main Street, so they could have an electric to make a left turn lane or a right turn lane. But then, this lovely bunch of guys approved a big 4-story development on that little lot, which is being built right now, so they can't take the land no more. So those plans that you're referring to, that the state is going to do in conjunction with the county, and when I called the county, one of the guys down there didn't even know that they were doing this, you know, because it's also a county road, right, Route 7. So this thing in no way is going to reduce the volume of traffic. You could do all the, change the lines, change everything and all, and I don't know, were you here in the morning between, say, 7 and 10?
Yes, I've been out at the site between 7 and 8:30.
Are you familiar with what happens on Stephen Street? Right
Backs
across
all
from
the
that
way-
project.
Backs all the way up.
There's a siding in place there. I'm a contractor, I buy there. I would always wait till 10, 11 o'clock to go. You can't get there. There's tractor trailers unloaded, there's contractors loading up and all, double parked and all. There's flatbeds waiting to unload on the west side of the street. And cars can't even get through in the morning when it's a business. So when you experts come here, you come here with these history that you inspected the property and you were there, but we live here 24 hours a day. This is an impossible situation to jam all this stuff in. And I lost track, I don't know, 1,400 residential units have been approved for Washington Avenue.
Mr. Frantantoni.
None of them.
It's not a question.
Well,
If you want, I'll swear you in.
Well, that's at the end, all right?
Well, then
Maybe
let's
I'll
wait till
save
the end for it.
Maybe I'll save this for the end.
Thank you.
But and you're talking about all the things you said. After I heard the word hopefully from you, I started marking down 17 times after the first few, you said hopefully. So all your expert testimony was always couched in hopefully. Oh, this is going to happen, hopefully.
What is the
This
question?
is going to happen.
What is the question?
Well, can he guarantee?
Of course you can't guarantee it.
Can you, these are kind of problems.
That's the stuff for you to talk about at the end.
Destroying this at the end. All right, well, that's a couple of questions. And then you talked about the trip generation manual. I'm familiar with that, attending these meetings for almost 50 years. And a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago, I got one and all that. I started reading that thing. These are experts
But
that
Mr.
write these
Frantantoni,
manuals.
that's not your...
Well, I'm asking him, these manuals, how do you depend on them? Do you know who writes these manuals?
The Institute of Transportation Engineers publishes this manual from data provided to them from engineers like myself who have counted. I've counted residential developments, sat there, how many cars come in and out, and then either we keep that ourselves or we send it to the Institute and they would compile it in their next publication.
Okay, well, I'll make comments of that in the end. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Sheldon? Please, questions.
Yes. You'll be pleased to know I have only one. Michael Sheldon, 47 Floyd Street again. During your testimony regarding traffic, you said that in order to enhance pedestrian safety at the driveway entrances and exits, you said you can have audible alarms installed to alert citizens that a car is about to emerge. Rather than can this board make as a condition that appropriate warning devices be installed at those driveway entrances to protect, especially children who I'm sure are going to be...
Yes, we could.
I know you could, but can you, will you?
Mr. Sheldon,
That's not the expert.
I was actually thinking that same thing, but then if people are coming home at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, do you want that audible going across?
No.
If you're
Well,
living
that's
across
why
the
I was going to
street?
say maybe a combination of audio and visual.
That's why I think audio is
Maybe,
no
you know,
good.
some sort of warning or some sort of system where during the daytime audio, but at nighttime some sort of light.
We could work with whatever the board wants.
We've spec'd out on the plans, we were showing a visual. Again, we could find out if there is an option that could do both or have time limited, but we definitely at least have the visual on the plan.
Maybe possibly a gate coming across the sidewalk to stop.
No, you can't.
Well, but something needs to be done because this is
Right,
going
no,
to be an
it's a good thought.
intensely trafficked area, and I just don't want anybody to be injured or worse because of this. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Stephen Street, where my father lives, especially because of the access to the bridge, there's a lot of trucks coming down at all times, tractor trailers, and it's a residential street. Is there a way that the street can be, I do believe it already has laws that there shouldn't be tractor trailers. Can we find a way to enforce that? That needs to be enforced because those trucks start up and come to the building supply first thing in the morning, wake my father up.
It's really not something.
That's not something for him, but I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, we can't do that as a board.
No.
Sorry.
Coming out of the driveways, first question is, where is Quick Check's driveways?
You can almost see it on this plan, that this obviously it was a construction driveway, but kind of where the D is on Cortlandt Street on this image.
That's the only access to Quick Check?
No, they also, are you referring to Cortlandt Street driveways? Because there's multiple.
Really? Oh, I want to know around
So
Quick Check.
they've got 2 on Cortlandt Street, They've got an entrance only on Stevens Street, so you'd be able to make a right in on Stevens
Okay.
Street, and they have a right in, right out on Rutgers. So again, just right in, right out Rutgers, 2 on Cortlandt, in on Stevens.
So what I'm curious about from our side as you're coming out of the garage, if there is a queue of people waiting at the light at Rutgers, coming south on Cortlandt, and I'm pulling out of that garage and I try to make a left, somebody might pull out halfway, can't get into that queue because there's a line of cars, and now nobody can go north on Cortlandt. Would it be prudent to make a right turn only coming out of our garage? I don't think it's a detriment to anybody, because if they really do want to get to Rutgers, right, head down Stevens. It seems like it ought to have a right turn only.
Yeah, it sounds good, but drivers today don't listen. Right over here by Belleville
I know.
Avenue, they specifically made it that you had to go out on the right. People stop and they insist on going on the left hand.
Yeah.
I would say typically what we see is something like that usually is self-policing, because if we put up a no left turn sign, if you're leaving here at 10 o'clock at night, you're going to make the left because there's no one in your way. So what usually happens is that people want to get out of the garage as easy as possible. So if you live there and you're like, oh, it's much easier for me to make 3 rights instead of 1 left, don't make the 3 rights. The good thing is this is not, these are the same people coming here every single day. They learn the easiest way to get around.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. You mentioned 40 units, and one of the issues here is that the building is fairly large. It has a lot of people, a lot of units, which require a lot of parking spaces. The way you stated it, I remember hearing in your testimony, said that the plan asked for 40, the redevelopment plan. Is that true, that the redevelopment plan actually wants 40?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Because otherwise, I mean, to me, to sit in here and try to say that you have to have a parking garage this size, and that creates a building this size with no setbacks, or minimal setbacks, it's just a developer trying to get some more units. But if that's what's wanted, desired, I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I'll close this portion. Any other further testimony?
That's it, Madam Chair. So I know you still have to open up to the public for comment. I'll make a brief statement at the end, if that's okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any comments from the public for your final submission? Mr. Hinton? It's not a question answer. It's not question answer, it's just what you feel, and we're gonna swear you in.
Gary Hinton, 307 Fairway Avenue, Belleville.
Yeah, Mr. Hinton, could you please raise your right hand? Right here. Could you please raise your hand? You swear the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
No. Just kidding.
Nobody's ever said that to me.
You're asking for 3 variances here, the setbacks on 2 sides, and the one on the roof, right?
The height
The height
and the 3 setbacks
and
on
the 3 setbacks. So
right.
you're asking for all these variances, the main ones around the base, so they could have the parking, is why they need the variances down there. So why would you give them a 3rd variant, a 3rd or 4th variance for the height when you want to limit the parking spaces, the cars that are coming in and out of here, because it's going to be horrendous for everybody in that area that lives for parking. Parking is going to be one huge problem, especially when you have the trucks on Stevens Street for the aluminum siding building. It's going to be crazy. It's getting like that all over town with parking. Parking is becoming a big problem because we're getting so populated here. You know that these here apartments, if 1-room apartment, you got a husband and wife, they have a car apiece, where are they going to put all these cars? So at least, if you're going to give them these variances for the garage parking for downstairs, eliminate that 5th floor so it cuts down on 7 to 14 cars. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another? Yes, please. Just state your
Please
name.
raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, just give us your name again for the record.
Caesar Roca, for the street. Again, it's the theme here, right? The parking and the traffic. that's really all I'm here to say once again. I'm probably one of the most affected, because I am that corner home there on Rutgers and Cortlandt. I'm going to get all the impact from traffic coming in and out of Quick Check and the additional residents having here. I'm just thinking, or I fight back saying that the new traffic pattern is going to alleviate, because we're talking about another project that's getting wrapped up in down Raleigh. People are always going to find the easiest way out. Unfortunately, Cortlandt Street has always been that area where traffic navigates up and down Belleville, right? I don't know what the fix is. That's up to, that's kind of why we're all here, trying to see if we can find the common ground and make this work. My concern remains parking. I have a couple of my neighbors who aren't here. I don't know if they got notice or not, but they're not here, and their concern, just as we talk as neighbors, is parking as well. I don't know if it's coming, and this is probably not the forum or the place for it, but maybe trying to designate that small spot that we have as resident-only parking, because as much as you say there's parking for guests there, I'm sure you're going to have a couple extra guests in the holidays. Parking is going to be at a premium. So anything that you can bring to the table to help alleviate that for us would be great. The traffic is an issue. I know you know it, but that is an issue. I mean, we've had yesterday, I have video yesterday of emergency services vehicle having trouble navigating rush hour traffic. On top of that, I've had cars, just because everyone's fighting to get through, again, I have pictures as evidence of cars inside my property. So I wonder when I guess when you did the survey of the traffic, did you look at traffic incidents that have occurred on Cortlandt and Rutgers, right? So that's something to consider as well. So we got to get this under wraps, because it's just getting worse. See more problems, people, emergency services vehicle getting through, and I see more accidents happening. So.
Mary Ann?
Two minor things. I'm just going to bring it back to pedestrian issues and the garage entrance. There's design ways to make walking past a driveway or garage door safe, and we can work with you on that. It's very simple. Usually it's using some landscaping and putting a curb bump out, something to keep pedestrians away from the building so that they're not right there when a car is coming out. The other thing that I hear is a concern about parking, and one of the things that I will ask you just to confirm is that these spaces are guaranteed for each tenant of this building.
That's correct.
So they're going to park in the garage space, which is covered and safe and climate controlled and free. So that is, that's going to be a benefit. And I just want to confirm that that's the case.
Correct, just as the redevelopment plan states, each one bedroom will get their one space, each two bedroom will get their two spaces, and there'll be four left over. They will have to park there.
And that will be included with the rent.
That's correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Will they be all assigned?
Yes, that was the goal, and especially the two tandem, obviously, that would get assigned as well.
So they'll be numbered.
Of course, Chris, just.
Mr. Frantantoni?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. You swear the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay.
I'm going to address you members of the planning board, because the problem we have in Belleville was created by you folks. You're the ones that prepared the master plans. You prepare and change the zoning issues and all that. And it's your fault what's going on here. So just you know where I'm coming from, 16 Rutgers Street, the first house when you come over the bridge, my friend of 50 years died the first week in January. The only one relative in Arizona, they called me up, he said, could you take care of the house? The executive state is a lawyer from New York. He don't know anything about Belleville. Vinny, you got to help us out. until last Thursday, when we closed on the house for 10 months, I've taken care of the house. Every day I'm there to pick up the mail, to forward to him if I had it and all that. So, if anybody's an expert here tonight, I've been every single day for 10 months, I've been down there. You cannot get there in the morning between 7 and 10. You can't traverse that street, it's impossible. In the afternoon, from 3 to 7, it's the same exact thing. Now, when the lot on the corner was empty, at least, if I would go there, at least I could see traffic coming and try to get out into the traffic. 3 months ago, when they started building what you folks approved on that lot, the 4-story monster on that little lot, which was formerly a gas station, now, and you gave them variances, and this is the thing, when you give a variance, you require the 10-foot or 12-foot side yard or rear yard. There's reasons for those rear yards, but you gave them 0. So now he builds up right to the driveway. Once the building goes up, impossible to get out of the driveway. A couple of times I tried to come around from Main Street, let me pull past the house and back my truck in, so it'll be easier to get out. But there's so much traffic and nobody gives you a break. I pull up past the house so I can back in, boom, they're on my bumper, I can't back in. Everybody's blowing the horn. This has been 10 months of personal experience on that street. The other thing, we have so many layers of incompetent government. The traffic light on the corner of Rutgers and Washington Avenue, and you all know for 50 years I had the laundromat right there and all that. Last year, I won't go back up there, just last year alone, 5 times that light was knocked down. Tractor trailers making the right turns, they hit the pole and knock it down. Traffic is blocked up, the cops come there and barricade everything. Washington Avenue is backed up to Nutley almost, because nobody can get over the one way to get over this. The third time I went, I was talking to one of the guys, and I even called the state. I said, look, and I measured, I looked at other lights. Put the post on the other side of the street because your arms are long enough to go. That one over there goes to the middle of the street. So what's the difference? Put it on that side of the street, it'll still be in the middle of the street. Oh, we got the engineers looking on it. Well, that time was about 2 months ago. A week later, boom, the guy's in the body shop. So, again. So, this is experts. Experts, and look, right here on this one street, look at all the incompetency in government. Engineers and architects and all this stuff under oath testify, and we're suffering with this. My daughter lives in Roseland, 13 years ago. It's 8.1 miles from my house to her house. 15 minutes, I would walk Bloomfield Avenue. Now you got Bloomfield Center stacked, jammed in like crazy. You got Montclair Center, you can't go down there. Now it's 45 minutes or so to get to her house. This morning, my wife had to go to the eye doctor on Bloomfield Avenue, West Caldwell. An hour and 5 minutes. You go up there, all right? From Lackawanna Plaza on Bloomfield Avenue to get out past the big hotel, 21 minutes. 21 minutes. This is,
what is it? Now focus on this building and.
I am focused. No, it's cumulative. It's what you do,
we have
and he does, and nobody's paying attention. Now you're supposed to when you do
ability to control the traffic in Roseland. Pretty certain of that.
Telling us is that
it's not Roseland. There's no traffic in Roseland.
Well, you were just telling me about how long it went to get there.
It's because of all the overdevelopment in Belleville, Bloomfield, Montclair, and all these other towns.
So we understand that and you made your point, I think, about the fact that there's a lot of traffic in and around Belleville due to overdevelopment, in your opinion, right? That's pretty much what your point is?
Not my opinion, the facts. Facts. I'm not giving you hypotheticals, and I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm giving you 10 months of facts of every day over here, and this gentleman here, the traffic guy or engineer, whoever you want, even testified that Cortlandt, 150 cars an hour on Cortlandt Street is a zoo. Mr. Marinello, you want to wanna come here and watch. You cannot get through there. The light turns green, the traffic gets all back up, only 2 cars get through.
Okay.
Everybody's blowing the horn.
Okay.
This should be because of overdevelopment, which is caused by planning boards and zoning boards approving stuff that shouldn't be approved. Now, I was a public official. As a citizen, I complained about overdevelopment. We had 25 units per acre, and it was getting crazy. I got in office, I managed to get the votes, we reduced it to 16. We had a nice suburban character, we had a beautiful shopping center, people were able to park and all.
You make an excellent point about the traffic, but this board has no jurisdiction over that. The 40 units are allowed. The redevelopment zone allows for this development to go in with the exception of the side yards and the height. Right? You agree with me?
No.
You don't think this is a permitted use?
No, listen to what you said, or have the stenographer play back to it. You said this board has no control. That's what I'm talking about. This is the board that changed the zoning ordinance to allow the successive development. So don't sit there and look me in the eye and tell me this board has no control over it.
Well, I'd just like you to concentrate on this application, honest to God.
I am concentrating
No,
on
you're
this
not.
application.
You're talking about every other traffic trip you took in the last 10 years. Just tell me about this.
Mr. Marinello, maybe you didn't have good comprehensive education in school. Listen to what he said. I am zeroing in on this application only, and I'm zeroing in on these couple of blocks only. I'm not saying every other thing in the world. I'm telling you what this development is going to do, and this development is only possible because this board created these regulations. So don't tell me they're not responsible.
I don't think we don't make the laws here.
You certainly do, then you don't even understand. How long have you been on the zoning board?
The council
20
came
years.
up with
I don't make the laws. I have to follow them. I don't make them.
You are now on the planning board.
I don't make
The planning board makes the laws.
One at a time, please.
No, they don't.
Well, then you shouldn't sit up there, Rich.
All right,
When do they make the laws? When?
Mr. Frantantoni,
You are the
make a
zoning
summary
board.
of,
Who makes the
Mr.
master plan?
Frantantoni, please,
Council.
I need one person
Council.
speaking, and I don't need rambling on. We need one person
Don't
speaking
blame
at
me.
a time.
I'm not rambling. Do you hear what he just said?
Yes, I did.
He just said the council
Let's-
makes it. No,
let's
that's not
Well,
true.
you're blaming
I
this
want
board.
you
This
to
board doesn't do
focus
that.
on your summary. Please focus on your summary. You're against the project. Is there anything else that you want to state?
Yes.
What else is
All
wrong with
this
the
problem.
project?
But I can't let him say that he don't make the laws.
I don't.
How long have you been on here? Who makes the zoning ordinances? The planning board makes it.
Please state.
Planning
about
board
the project.
reviews zoning ordinances.
The
Council
planning board
votes on it.
creates it, then it goes to the council. First of all, the council asks, and by law, every 6 years, you have to revise the master plan and all. It's
All
the
right.
job of the planning board.
Mr. Frantantoni, please, we all are educated in what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, evidently not.
We're speaking on this project.
Right.
You don't like the traffic, you think it's too congested, there's gotta be another way. I agree with you. Maybe, Mr. Mayor, you can build us another bridge. There'll be another way out.
You know, your arrogance is ridiculous, you know.
But you're-
And all that, you know, it's
Please
ridiculous.
summarize.
This is industrial, quick check, thank you. They were originally gonna take up the whole block, and I love that kind of development I like. Commercial, industrial is fine. It's a benefit to the town. It gives us jobs. We don't have to provide services to them at all. But let me tell you something. We're now getting more and more towns. Here's Patterson, an article, the council's
No,
there.
we're going into another direction. I can't allow that now. You've spoken quite a long time. Please state why you don't like this project, or
What do you
you
think
do
I'm
like
doing?
it.
This
You're
project is not good
you're
for the
telling
town.
us that
It's
other
too-
surrounding towns have problems with traffic. We all have traffic problems. It's not going to be cured in one simple swift. This project cannot cure everybody's problems in all these towns. We're talking about this project, and we
I
got to
am
come
talking
up
about
with a
this
solution.
project will add to the problems we already have in Belleville.
Okay.
And I've been specifying this my entire time. I'm not talking about anything else that's going on the other end of the.
You were,
I'm talking
you
about
are.
this project. This project should not be approved.
Okay, thank you.
This area is too high density with it. There's housing already, and these things, you could say, oh, one parking space for someone else says average couple has 2 cars, but we haven't discussed, and I forgot to bring it up to the expert, what about visitors? Where are they gonna park?
That was discussed.
Where are they gonna park?
There's
You're not allowed,
there's spaces inside.
rightfully so, you can't park on the east side of Cortlandt Street here. You can't park on Stevens Street.
You're not listening. The
you don't care about the
testimony
answer.
was, there
He
is
doesn't care
parking
about the
there for
answers.
that.
For visitors?
Yes,
Where?
inside.
52 spaces? He says he's got 1 for every 1 bedroom and 2 for the 2 bedrooms, which is required.
And 4 visitors.
One
Where?
spot
Four
for
visitor
every
spots.
10 as per the redevelopment plan.
Okay, we'll see how that works out. But this, you know, to sum up, if you're blind, if you people live here, and I don't know if you travel, but now, and I knew the problems, it's getting worse and worse. Just before I sold, the last 2 years before I sold my laundry, I lost customers because of lack of parking. All right? They just can't get there. You can walk a block for a cup of coffee, you're not gonna walk with laundry or no. The restaurants are hurting now since you put these meters in. But these are problems that are cumulative. They're cumulative, and once they're built, you got, and, you know, the luxury apartments down in North, you know, the colonnades, they're gonna be luxury, they all turn into
We're
Colonnade
talking
now, we're in the
colonnade.
well, they all
Let's-
turn in,
let's-
these
this
are gonna be
project-
tenement houses. In 15, 20 years, they're gonna be tenement houses.
None of us will be,
So, oh, is that the attitude?
yeah,
That's
because
the attitude. You see,
I mean, I don't
it's
know
really
what
hopeless.
more
It's
you want
really
us to
hopeless
say.
when the president of the planning board says, I don't care, I'm not gonna be here.
you.
You know, it's a disgrace, and you're all a disgrace, and you better find it out. I can't believe a guy that's sitting there for many years tells me we don't make the laws. The planning board is the one that creates the zoning ordinance.
The council has the final vote, Vinnie, just in case you don't know.
Right, but
We reviewed the master plan, and the council has the final vote. We
Thank
can
you.
recommend whatever we want.
Thank you.
And the council has the
Thank
final
you.
vote.
You
That's
said
what
you
you
said
said.
the master plan. Thank you for voting.
Recommend.
Please,
Right.
can I have
Well,
some
you
silence
recommended
here?
too much. You're destroying Belleville.
Excuse me,
I don't know how
Mr.
anybody can look in there.
Frantantoni,
And the final statement, Mr. Mellon shouldn't even vote on this because he accepted thousands of dollars from this
Thank
developer.
you. That
He's
has
got a
nothing-
conflict of
Nothing
interest.
to do right now. Is there any other statements? Mr. Shelby? Please just make your summary of
Yes,
your
I will
forward
keep, I will do my best
against.
to keep it civil and
Thank
to
you.
the point, thank you. I have to be sworn in, I
Yes, you swear the testimony you should give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
will do my best, yes I do. All right.
Like coming again around here?
I want to forward something over, Joe. Before I get into my testimony, just to follow up what Mr. Frantantoni said about visitor parking, correct me if I'm wrong, but the parking is gated, right? You can't just automatically come in from outside, you need a key fob. So your reply to him, there's parking inside, really isn't true. Those visitors are going to have to be buzzed in, or they're going to find on-street parking. So there really isn't visitor parking as we would like to.
But if they can't find parking on the street, they're gonna be buzzed in.
I hope they can be. I hope there's that facility in the design that the visitors can be buzzed in. Start off by saying I appreciate the new generation of attorneys and expert witnesses. It looks like there's a passing of the baton, the guard. It's all young people here tonight. I appreciate the fact. I also appreciate the fact, I forget your name, but you remind me of my favorite PGA golfer, Rory McIlroy. When you first walked in, I thought, oh my God, did Rory lead the PGA Tour over the disagreement?
I don't have his name or his money. Okay.
No, I hope you can drive a golf ball 350 yards as well. The building admittedly looks beautiful, but it's another situation where you're putting in too large a building in too small a space. Now, when Mr. Mellon announced that he was going to run for mayor, he gave an interview in 2017 about what he wanted to do with future development in the township. And he said in that article in The Observer that Belleville is a small town 3 square miles with 36,000 people crammed into it, and that Belleville could not deal with large residential buildings. And he actually criticized the zoning board, which in 2016 or 17,
We're not the zoning board, let's stay right here.
I was on the zoning board at the time, but the zoning board approved the property that's the Tiflinski project, 78102 Washington Avenue. We approved 80 units for that, and Mr. Mellon said that was too much. As an example,
We got to come back.
I am.
You
But what
promised to
happened?
come back
Mr.
shortly,
Mellon
come
gets
on.
elected, Mr. Mellon gets elected, he takes over control of the planning board, and what does this planning board do? They don't approve 80 units, which he had said before he got elected was too much for an area like that. Instead, this planning board approves 158 units. So somewhere in your calculus, 158 is less than 80.
But he has no control over our votes.
Nor is that
He
about this
appointed,
project.
for 3
Talk about
years,
this
until I brought
project.
Michael Gates in, he and Martino were illegally appointed, they had
No,
usurped
no,
appointment
no,
power
no,
from the
we're
rest of the
off
planning
and we're
board.
not going this
Look.
route. Stop now, so I don't have to cut you
This
off
is
short.
hypocrisy.
Please stay
This
on
is-
the
I am.
project.
What this project is another gift to Peter Tiflinski and Premier Developers. And it's all because Mr. Mellon has received tens of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions.
Okay.
If he had the ethical decency for once in his life, he would recuse himself. And I wonder
Well,
why
we don't
Mr.
know that
Graziano is not here tonight. I think Mr. Graziano, who is now proving himself to be a man of integrity and honesty, is starting now to do all the right things for this township. And I think Mr. Graziano, I'll probably be told no, he's elsewhere in the country tonight. But Mr. Graziano, I think, deliberately stayed away from this meeting to avoid that conflict, but not this man. This man
He actually
couldn't care
voted on all the
less.
redevelopment applications, by the way.
All right.
I'm talking about
Mr.
tonight.
Sheldon.
You should recuse yourself from this meeting. You received tens of thousands of dollars from Mr. Tiflinski last year. He ran
Mr. Sheldon, please stop.
Fine, I'm done. This video will be going to my contacts at the OAE and the AG's
thank
office
you.
for tomorrow. I have them on speed dial. I'm on a first-name
All right,
basis.
that's
with
okay.
multiple attorneys.
That's all right.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
have a good night.
Is there any other comments? I will close this portion. Yes, some up, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. It took a lot of effort to get here, working with the boards and the municipal professionals, so we really appreciate that. As the architect indicated, we went through multiple iterations of this plan to get it, I think, into a good spot. I'll be brief, but just to say that we think that the way we balance this application with some of the variances, specifically having the height be set back from Academy Street, although we have the variances for the side yard, really made this project better in terms of how it relates to Academy Street on residential, and also how it allows for parking and circulation to occur on the property. And I also think we agreed to a number of really good conditions that made the project even better from when we got here. Mr. Marinelli, you can correct me if I didn't get all of them. One was improving the rear facade. I'll just leave it as that, but I know the language was more specific. Adding canopies along the front. Having a private hauler for the garbage and recycling pickup so that it wasn't a municipal responsibility. Improving the stormwater management above and beyond and working with your township engineer. I think some of the board members emphasized that and wanted that. The rooftop amenity or the rooftop area would close by 10 p.m. I'll just say we would agree to all the brick and mortar samples that we provided and to confirm them with your board planner. We would also comply with all the board professional letters, notably also the streetscape and planting of trees that Ms. Bucci-Carter had asked for. And then I think finally Ms. Bucci-Carter came up at the end and also said we'd work with her on pedestrian safety and acknowledgement for the garage. So I think all those things collectively, included in what we already did to get here, has made this project work really well. We've developed it, worked well with the quick check of the surrounding properties. So I would respectfully request that the board would grant the application for preliminary and final site plan with the variances and deviations sought and all the conditions and stipulations that we made. I know it's been a long night. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
I just have a quick thing about the sign, because you weren't clear on what you had. Can we have those conditions come back?
Which signs?
the signage for the building.
I think we indicated, I'll check with Chris, that it would conform. Yeah, we would conform with the ordinance. If we needed any deviation, of course, we'd have to come back. But I think the applicant's goal is just to comply with the ordinance, or the redevelopment plan.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now can I hear from the board?
Motion.
Okay, second. Mr. Banda?
Motion with the conditions presented.
I think our attorney should list the conditions.
I just,
You just read them all.
All right,
yeah, I had all those same ones written down.
stormwater.
Okay.
Yeah. Stormwater, rooftop closing, pedestrian safety, canopies, that's right. You did, I don't know if you mentioned the canopies.
Yes, along the frontage, yes.
Okay. The rear of the building is gonna get spruced up with the input of the planner. That's what I have. That's all part of the same thing. I have it more written down, but better. Oh, and that they have to use the materials that were agreed to.
And just compliance with the board professional review orders.
Yeah, that's always my standard, whether you say it or not.
I'll second Mr. Vanna motion.
I'll get a roll call.
Chairwoman Navarado?
Yes.
Venero?
Yes.
Banda?
Yes.
Giordano?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes.
Goodens?
Yes.
Relaford?
Oh, yes.
Zingari?
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Point where we can adjourn till next month. And I get a motion.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.